1. Hello, lords and ladies of the internet, and welcome back to the Council of Candor, episode 22. We're going to be EFAPing one Joseph Narukami. I think I pronounced that right. I've heard it's Persona, but I don't play that game. So,
I believe that you pronounced it correctly, yes.
Excellent. We're going to get into it, and, quickly today. First, I would like to introduce our esteemed panel who are going to be helping me take down this video. And then we'll get into what this video is and why we're covering this. So we're going to go left from right. So first up is Mr. Creatively Garbled, a fellow YouTube creator. How you doing, Garbled?
I'm doing pretty all right, kid. Thanks for having me on.
Oh. Next up, we have a regular on the council, Mr. Dez. How are you doing today, Dez?
I'm doing all right.
Excellent. And you all know me. And following me is our resident animal expert and fellow co-host, Pops. How's it going today, Pops?
Oh, it's excellent, man. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to everybody who could join us today for this excellent topic. So, yeah, things have been going very well today. Went to the gym. Ended up actually putting the laundry in rather than letting it pile up. I swept my room. I went to the creek with my girlfriend, who you don't know because she goes to another school. And had a lot of fun. This is a topic.
Is that the other school, is that the one
had...
the next town over, or is that the other one that you have to take the train to get to?
The other one.
I'm not at liberty.
The other one? Okay.
I'm not participating in that. But
don't talk about her on here, you whore. Okay, you're gonna ruin everything for him.
I know. I know we got a couple of different perspectives in here as far as how we want to perceive this video. Some of you haven't watched it. I have watched it. I do have a couple of things that I do want to say, and a couple of things about Rooney that I think should be said. So this is going to be fun. We're going to jump right in. All right, here we go.
We have a few more guests to introduce. So next up, I would like to greet our fellow co-host, Pag. He is back once again.
Oh, hi. How's it going? Still a writer. That's what I do, and that's kind of the perspective I'll be looking at this from.
Hey, kid.
Yep.
Just real quick, I think there might be streaming issues.
There might be streaming issues?
Yes.
Find them. What's wrong with
the
streaming issues?
Never mind. Seems like it's working fine.
Okay.
Who?
Anyway, yeah. So I've read a little bit of not Godzilla's. I read a little bit of Rooney's writing in the past. And do some work, but also I watched about 10 minutes of this video.
What you read about?
What'd you say?
You've read enough to have an opinion.
Yeah, I've read enough to have an opinion, essentially. And I've also watched enough of this video to have an opinion, so I'm definitely biased going into this.
Excellent. And last but not least is Titan, returning from his long hiatus from the Warhammer stream. How's it going, Titan?
It's going good, going good. I guess I'm the local Warhammer autist on this little area. I don't know how else to describe it.
Warhammer opinions of everybody.
Yes,
that's a
all of my
low
opinions
bar.
are correct opinions. So I mean, can't go any better than that.
Just so you all know, me and him got in an argument with the guy in another server that it was telling us that the Emperor is not in fact wrong for being an edgy atheist. Because killing all the religions did, in fact, not affect all people. It did not push everyone to chaos. Even though it's directly stated in the only book that talks about religion that that's what happened. But what do we know?
Yeah, just go watch The Last Church. Free on YouTube. Partially animated, I guess. Actually interesting. Go watch that for once.
No spoilers, but read the story that we're about to cover.
Yeah, oh yes, it is related to this, because this is... it's all right.
No
spoilers. For those
come
people
on.
coming in a little bit. So Blackarooni is a friend of most of ours, and he is a well-beloved member of my server. He's got some funny takes, some sad takes on Godzilla. I will say right now, if you've ever been on his podcast, you know that I vehemently disagree with almost all of his opinions and thoughts on Godzilla. However, this video covering this is possibly the worst takedown I've ever seen of this. You would think it would be very easy to cover like a breakdown of Blackarooni's takes because, well, as much as I love Rooney, he's wrong about Godzilla.
He's a bad take machine.
Yeah.
A couple of things to take. Yeah, it's not totally irredeemable, as a whole, but like, yeah, you notice things and it sets you off.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way this guy approached it almost seemed like a little too overly emotional. Like he's too committed to making him look a certain way rather than actually. I don't want to say objective because like that's such a word that gets thrown around, but like taking him down as far as like in a valid way. It kind of
Yeah,
falls
it's like vindictive. It's not.
Right,
It's not.
yes.
Yep.
Yeah, he's got a point to prove. He's got an axe to
He
grind.
cares
He
about
fucking finds it.
Joseph here,
He cares
he's
about the
super
hit
cool with
piece.
his profile pic of Blade. He really wants you to know how much he doesn't like Rooney, and that gets in the way of any useful critique, criticism, or lessons to be learned from Rooney's thing. I have all the guests here and Watch Together. This is our first time using Watch Together. When it inevitably breaks and crashes, this will be Dennis's fault. Make sure you join the Discord link below and yell at him for breaking everything. So,
You make sure that I
Has
have
he
the
ever
volume.
kept anything in line? Like, really?
oh, he's terrible.
No.
So remember, those of you who are new to Watch Together, the play pause button works for everybody. You control your own
I'm not-
volume.
Yeah, so spam it as much as possible.
Yes,
That's the
please do.
goal. Spam it.
Okay.
All right.
When I have a
Hello.
All right,
This is
you motherfucker.
I did as instructed what you want.
Count us down.
All right. So I'm gonna hit play, and this is Joseph's video in 3, 2, 1.
Joseph here, and this is another criticism video of Blackarooni if you are into that.
All right. Sorry to pause it so
So
early,
pause.
but
There's another.
I
There's more than
fucking
one.
There's more.
hate the just like the tone that this video is done in. I hate the like I don't know, he just sounds like he doesn't give a shit, and I hate that. I mean, you're producing something. This is a piece of art that you're putting out for other people to consume. Give a shit.
Excited about it.
Oh man,
Give a shit.
Yeah. He just sort of sounds like he just took some ibuprofen. It's getting a little bit late at night. He has to get the video out.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I gotta do this thing about Blackarooni.
No, that's another thing. I don't want to
Another
get.
thing about Blackarooni.
Dude.
This is a
But
second.
there is a moment in there where I'm like, he says something about the way that it's written, and I thought like, well, you don't understand that we're approaching this from the form of like a piece of art rather than like some like completely technical, grammatically correct and all this and everything. I don't want to get ahead of myself and spoil it, but there is a moment I feel like I'm probably going to jump on that.
Mm-hmm.
Get to it. And just so chat knows, I have only seen a few minutes of this video before I decided I want to cover this, because I want to show all of you how you actually do a breakdown of a piece of media and how you actually want to critique not only people in the wild, but your friends. It's okay to tell your friends, your work is stupid, please try again. But there's a correct way to do it. The way this guy does it is the incorrect way. All right, I'm going to hit play again. Go ahead, Pops.
Okay. Is it okay to tag your video with a hot topic like nihilism? That's kind of like a thing that's getting bigger with the young people, just so that people watch it. Is that the right way to do it?
I think I think it's thematically appropriate given some of the lines in this.
I feel like
very nihilistic
in the script.
Jumping to calling it nihilist is like kind of a strong thing. So maybe that's just me.
It is strong. And I'm definitely getting
Chance to
ahead
prove it in
myself.
the
But
video.
I was gonna say I think
I
he
haven't
does.
seen it yet, so maybe he does the legwork. Maybe he goes through and proves that it's nihilistic and a bad story.
And then
Maybe.
again,
The
this is
first
that
50
thing.
minutes
There'll be
are completely wrong, and the last 40 are the best piece of media you've ever seen.
Exactly.
We can't be
I just-
sure yet.
Exactly.
I stopped.
I have
like
watched
me.
the whole.
I stopped gambling right before I found gold. I know you've seen the whole thing.
Because
Pops, don't
90%
spoil it.
of gamblers stop before they win big. It's certified evidence. Have you not seen the studies for this?
Exactly.
Really?
All right,
Play it.
we're gonna hit play now,
We
boys.
will.
more
let's go.
kinds of videos later, but for now, I just really want to keep talking about this guy until it's over. So this is his short story that you can read on Patreon for free, which he calls his amateur writer debut, called Godzilla, God of This World. It's not a very good amateur writer
You can actually no longer get that on his Patreon.
It is tragic that you can no longer get it on his
Yeah,
So
Patreon.
true.
And I also want to
Anyway.
say, this guy already said that he's obsessed with Rooney and wants to do another takedown of him. This would be, I believe, his third video talking about Blackarooni on his channel. Not for nothing, my friend, but I don't think he's worthwhile having 3 whole videos going after. You could probably
How
say
many-
it in 2.
I mean, to be fair, his largest video is on Blackarooni.
I get it.
Now, granted,
Actually,
actually,
it's
his
his second
smallest
largest
video
video.
isn't on
His
Blackarooni.
largest video is a clip you uploaded 3 years ago of 2 Godzilla characters fighting, who I don't care about. But yeah.
No, that one, that's 10K. You're right. I thought that
Yes.
was 1K. You're right. That's
No.
that's actually crazy. That's wild.
Man, he has 7
Hey,
videos.
hey,
3 of them are
fellas,
this.
Yes.
I can't hear it on my thing. Is there a setting I need to hit?
Probably
We're
the
paused
volume.
right now. Like, are you
Where is
sure?
it? Where is it? Yeah, but
The
I
volume's
couldn't
at
hear
the
it
bottom.
before either. Before you
Oh, you
paused
couldn't
it.
hear
The
before
bottom right of the window.
Yeah, underneath the little
Yeah,
YouTube
bottom right.
thing.
Underneath the little YouTube, the setting thing.
Yeah.
Yarp. Yarp.
Yarp doesn't say sound.
Try to increase it normally. I don't know how mobile works. While you figure that out, Pops, though, we're going to hit play. That way, if it does figure out, you can just hear it in the background, okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
And I really think he should go find something else to do. But this is his magnum opus, essentially, like his culmination of all the.
Our boy did find something else to do. He's gonna be a
Yeah.
First of
Well,
all,
what I wanted to comment on real quic is that
This
he's
is
saying
not
it's
his
a
magnum
magnum
opus.
opus,
This is his
but
opening.
also
Yeah.
he prefaced it with, "This is an amateur work."
Yeah, wait. How are you going to have
Yeah.
a magnum opus simultaneously in the same sentence as your writing debut? Your amateur writing
Yeah.
debut is your fucking magnum opus. Like that's what I mean. Like the tone
Yeah.
of this entire video is like you're
He's just
critiquing him
kidding.
from such an over the top kind of a way that it's like there's no way you can't like. I don't believe you. Like it's disingenuous. Like that's where it starts to get kind of disingenuous. Yeah.
yes. And that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Joseph,
But you're
if
framing
you
it.
want to bring down
It's a frame.
Blackarooni and say your amateur writing is bad, Rooney, then stick that as your line. Don't then say it's his greatest work he's ever written, because that's not fair. This is very clearly an
This
amateur
may actually
thing.
be. This may be
You
the
can't
greatest
call
work
it a
he's ever
magnum
written.
opus.
So-
Yeah.
But his magnum opus isn't going to be for like another 10 years. Like he's got to
Exactly,
Your
yes.
magnum opus
He's got a
is
long
like your
time
best
to
work
wait.
ever. You know.
Also,
Right, yeah. Like
I-
a lot of my favorite writers, their magnum opus literally took them years to write,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, you also already
don't
said,
see that.
Joseph, that he should stop writing. You insinuated that it's
Yeah.
that this is so bad. Which I'm going to tell you right now, all your videos, 100% of them, are worse than mine. You should probably delete your channel because of that. It's not nice when a bigger guy comes over and starts telling you what to do, is it, little boy? So I'm going to give you a chance right now. You can apologize on Twitter if you want, and you can apologize to Rooney, in person if you'd like. But you need to not tell people they can't write. It's for the first thing that he didn't put publicly. It's on his Patreon. I know it's available there, but it's not as like he published it in the world. You need to back the fuck off, kid. All right? So let's get back to this video. We'll watch him hang himself a little bit more.
I also
So
feel like
gross.
his video
My
would
goodness.
greatly benefit from being at least a little bit scripted. Go through the story and just you don't have to write out the
Oh, just
entire
wait.
thing of like, well, I want to do a 50-minute video. Just
So
like get a
this-
few points down.
I'm going to tell you right now,
Yeah, like
you're in
that's
for a
why
surprise.
I'm like,
Oh,
That's
what
why
do you
I
mean?
Oh,
Just wait.
What do you
is
mean?
this all
It's a 50-minute
scripted?
video
Shoot.
covering 40 pages. You'll see what happens. Let's let him hang himself more.
criticisms he's
Okay.
made in the past. It's
Yeah, look,
bad.
like,
it goes from
go ahead.
expository nightmare, getting a lot of basic facts wrong, a bizarre obsession of logic, and most of all, bad political soapbox. So
I'm sorry. Did you say a bizarre obsession of logic? Like that's
Yes.
a bad thing? That your story is logical?
Mhm.
Yes, this guy's
I
one
mean,
of
if
the
you're-
people who has drank the Kool-Aid of
Because
themes is more important than having logical consistency. And I'm going to tell you right now, you do need logical
Shoot.
consistency. You don't need autism the level that EFAP gets to. I understand.
Yeah, that's
they
that's
go
what-
crazy. But
yeah.
your story does need to have an internal logic. Godzilla can't be 10 feet tall, then 50 feet tall, then 5,000 feet tall in the same movie. You have to have some broad closeness to it. Now, I
And why
agree.
can't we
Rooney gets a
have
lot of his
both?
criticisms about Godzilla wrong, but if you're still going to start coming out and swinging like that, you might want to cite something. You might want to say Rooney here is obsessed with Godzilla's, logic, and to the point where it hurts him. And then you show a scene where instead of talking about an interesting part of the story or advancing characters, he goes on and on and on about logistics. That's how you show that he's too focused on the logic of the scene instead of understanding the storytelling thing. That's such a basic way to show it, and you have failed to do that in your opening scene here. I want to let him play a little bit longer. It's only been a few seconds, but I've seen the first 15 minutes, and I know he doesn't do that yet. He just starts doing ad hominem attacks. Let's let him go.
So, let's talk about this stuff. So we'll start with chapter 1. That's easy enough. So the opening is essentially Serizawa talking about his life. Unfortunately for you, dude, he's talking about how he's the sole survivor of the Tokai power plant, and he's gonna die in his hours left.
Why is that unfortunate for me? Why is that unfortunate for me? What about that is unfortunate for me? I just thought that was funny.
Great. Weird. Going.
I
Also,
think
what's
what's
Serizawa? Like,
now, hang on.
give us a little bit
so
more
he had-
background or something. Don't just.
Well, I think
I got
the
you,
problem
I got
here is, hang on a sec.
Oh,
Joseph has read the script. Rooney is talking about it right here. So Joseph, having already read it, knows who Serizawa is, whereas Rooney is explaining who the hell he is right here to us.
No, stop. Yeah. So what's actually going on, because I did look into this and I watched a couple of the last few Godzilla movies. Serizawa, do you remember the Asian dude, the Japanese guy who's like let them fight in like the 2014 movie? So that's him. So he's a known figure within the community, but nobody knows who his actual name is if you're like a casual fan. So what he's talking about here is not even Serizawa's life. What he's talking about is the perspective of Serizawa when the nuclear plant in Japan that he works at is getting like destroyed. So this is like the first interaction with Godzilla that they're having. It's not Serizawa giving his life biography. It's Serizawa giving like kind of his last diary entry as he like dies from nuclear radiation, which it's a bit of a spoiler, and like the guy does bring up a good point about it later on that I'll let you get to, but that's who he is. He's like an established known guy within the Godzilla fandom, but I know not so many of us are so familiar. That's all. So Serizawa, yeah, if you're a Godzilla fan, you know who that is.
I wouldn't have known. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's why I have a panel of experts here, because I fully believe
I was
these
gonna
things are going to
say,
miss.
I guess we actually have a reason for it.
Yeah, I don't know why you're here, Des, but we're going to hit play.
Left to live.
We'll eventually
Your
figure
work
that
sucks.
out.
Hang on. Oh shit!
Oh no!
I'm fixing
No,
it.
no.
I'm fixing
No,
it.
my thumb slipped.
I'm fixing it. I'm
We're
fixing
so
it.
back.
Everybody relax.
It's bad. It goes from
Bob's
expository
immediately
nightmare, getting a lot of
reversing
basic
that
facts wrong,
justification.
All right, let them go again, boys.
on a bizarre obsession of logic, and most of all, bad political soapbox. So, let's talk about this stuff. So we'll start with chapter 1. That's easy enough. So the opening is essentially Serizawa talking about his life. Unfortunately for you, dude, he's talking about how he's the sole survivor of the Tokai power plant, and he's gonna die and he has hours left to live, right? And he sees blisters on the back of his hand. His hand hurts from writing this. And he's right as fast as he can. So, unfortunately for you, at least, Blackarooni decides that in order to convey as much emotion and information as possible is by cramming it all into a gigantic exposition that lasts for way too long, that has nothing to do with the main actual part, right? So it's a whole page.
What do you mean by main actual part? You're gonna have to use some more substantive language here.
Here's the part that I think I know what he means, and I understand that he's critiquing it from he gets it wrong and he gets it right. So the issue that he brings up eventually is that this is 13 pages of a suicide note, basically, where the guy is about to die without his control, and it's there's no way he would be this verbose and fill this many pages if he is feeling the effects of nuclear radiation and he can't feel his hands and everything. I thought that was a good point in the critique, but but the idea that what he's saying is not relevant to the main story is ridiculous. What we're doing, Rooney's whole thing with a lot of his videos is can we treat Godzilla as a force of nature? Can we treat him as morally wrong? And the idea that in one of his latest videos, Rooney put out a thing that was how would you feel if you were just a regular person and your family died or your house got burned down by Godzilla? And it's okay, I understand. He's trying to bring us to understand the small individual perspective as far as what one human might experience as the destruction brought about on such a large scale. He wants us to understand that on a smaller scale to the individual. I feel that's what he's trying to do here. And I think it does give perspective on how powerful this monster is. And we'll get into more of that later.
On top of that, I think that it's important because this is a suicide note from a scientist. If scientists are notoriously very verbose and want to get nitty gritty detailed, I agree it's too long for a film, but the fact that the note is, let's just say 13 pages, what you said, it's 13 pages long. That's not too long for a suicide note. Because as a scientist, he probably would want to go on and explain what's going on and his logic, because that's what they do when they write papers.
You also die real slow in radiation.
Yeah.
You die real slow.
And also, scientists, this is telling you about his character. I'm going to give Rooney credit for this. If this is the let them fight guy, like you said, he's a known scientist.
Yeah.
He's also very philosophical in the movies I've seen, and he's also much more inwardly thinking. Yeah. Therefore, this is all in character. Now, he scrolls by too fast for me to be able to fully read what's going on in the suicide note. However, the little bits that we have here, such as on screen, he says, hours became days, days became weeks, week turned into 2 long months. The tremors only got stronger, and there was the possibility that the plant might collapse. Then, yesterday, I suppose you already know. This is also not written as a note. The ellipses here.
Yeah, this isn't exposition. This is
very clearly
this is like
going
story content.
Yes. This is very clearly, if this is a film, because I'm going to assume Rooney wrote this as a screenplay, even though it's not set up like a screenplay yet. This is the live reel at the beginning of Lord of the Rings, where she's telling you what's happening while they're actually doing everything on screen. That's what he's going for here. I can just tell because that's what it's set up with. We're supposed to be getting images flashed across the screen.
Yes, yeah, that's one thing I have with, there's a couple of critiques with Rooney's writing that I have for sure, but, there's a couple of things, mistakes that he makes that get pointed out, and it's that's a quick fix. He still conveys the same imagery. He invokes the same kind of ideas, regardless of, the shitty writing. He just needs a little polishing. He's just not ready to, be ready to make mistakes on purpose and make it sound good. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You have to master the fundamentals before you can start fucking with them. Mm-hmm. And he's just not there yet, but I get what he's trying to do from an artsy perspective.
Yeah. This chapter is about a third of the whole piece, though, by word count. It's about a third of the whole thing. So chapter 1, and then there's 4 other chapters that are the remaining 2/3.
Yeah, that's why I'm not saying the critique of the actual the sheer volume of words. It's not invalid to say get to the point, but again, that isn't really expressed in this critique.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
at least not in a way where we know where he's coming from. He just kind of scrolls through it and says, "Yeah, this is bad."
Yeah, one of the Ryan pieces of advice I've heard is take your work and enforce yourself to reduce it 10 to 20% to see what's actually really necessary. Cut out the fat, keep what's necessary kind of stuff. And I mean, from just scanning, there's some fat, but at the same time, this would be something you'd cut out when you fully try and realize your vision, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just looking on the screen here. The ground shakes 3 different times in this maybe 2 paragraphs worth of writing. That's way too many times that the ground is shaking, ground is moving. Cut that out. But that's revisional stuff. But I want to let this guy continue because we got a long video here, and it gets dumber.
Mm-hmm.
2 pages or so, pretty much, before he gets to the part that actually matters, which is it was in the middle of a really bad storm, right? And he's like, "Oh, yesterday, I suppose you already know." And it's the reader doesn't know that. Whoever's reading this is basically the reader. They don't really know anything. When they're opening up the book, they're not going to be "Oh, well, oh yeah, we know God's."
I'm assuming that what Rooney is getting at is that in the beginning, when he's saying, "Hey, the nuclear power plant exploded," that when he gets to this part, he's being "I don't want to say the nuclear power plant exploded again." And also the scientist isn't going to be "So hey, dumb children, I'm going to tell you this entire story. And also, the power plant collapsed." And he mentions it
And not just that,
the previous
as
sentence
Mazur from
there's
chat
a possibility.
Well, not just that. Mazur from chat brings up a great point. Literally, yes, we would know because this is a note we're finding on Serizawa's body at the destroyed power plant. We literally already have the context to know why this is here and what's going on with it.
Dude, honestly,
and even so, it's totally all right for characters to refer in story to events that the reader does not yet understand. That's totally fine.
Especially
that's just something that's okay to do.
Especially in the intro.
Okay.
Let me tell you why this is almost he's almost completely the opposite, totally wrong, and why this is good is because, again, like Pag said, the reader doesn't need to know the entire context of every little thing that you're saying. the way that he said, well, yesterday's events, ... I think you already know. Like, what that does is not only does it tell the reader that there was some big disaster or ominous event or whatever, it also tells you, by saying you already know, it gives you the scale of that disaster. Like, it really, it's a good narrative device, I feel like, to phrase that.
Yeah, and it goes
Like, you
double
can
because
reveal...
this is the introduction. That's your hook. If you're reading the story for the first time,
Yeah.
you're like, what happened yesterday? That's a big detail I'd like to know as a reader. That draws you in. That's a good thing.
It's engaging.
And it also allows you to extrapolate that even in this situation, it seems like there's something big, and he understands it's going to be big, so it's likely going to have a lot of ramifications, and it's probably going to be addressed really soon if it's so big that he doesn't even mention it by name. Like, oh, you already know what happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's called foreshadowing. You just do that sometimes. That's a tool in the writer's box. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a thing that you do. Like, it's so basic that it's hard to even...
Yeah, I'm open to hearing Rooney is wrong. Here's what the errors in his thing are. Yeah. But he hasn't done that yet.
There's a number of narrative devices that I noticed, like, getting critiqued in this video, and I'm like, no, you're being disingenuous. Like, we know what he meant. All right, go on.
And 1 second, I think the stream may have just broke. Also, Xenodrome Society pops.
Shout out. Zeno, that's my boy. How's he doing? I'll talk. Hang on, let me...
I'll get the stream, guys. I think something's going wrong with it right now.
Yeah, the stream is doing a little bit of buffering. Yeah, it's
buffering. It's back now.
It's back now?
Back.
Looks back to me.
Actually, I'm getting yellow bars all of a sudden. That's weird. It just came out of nowhere. All right. Big Godzilla's attacking the stream, so we're gonna play let the guy go some more.
To like destroy the world. But I mean, Sarazawa, I guess, doesn't know either. But the whole point is that nobody really knows what Godzilla is doing. It's basically supposed to be built up, but at the same time, it's like this weird meta narrative where the characters, if you read it back in time, I guess, because in chapter 4 they send you back to chapter 1. That's basically the meta narrative or something on those lines. It's not very good though.
Explain what you mean by meta narrative.
I'll tell you what.
Just say it's a meta narrative. Moving on.
Yeah, he didn't really elaborate on that very much.
What he's calling a meta narrative is either like I don't know if he means by meta narrative like the implicit understanding that the audience knows what Sarazawa is talking about at the beginning, or if at the later, I guess, people read his journal. And then, like, it still happens within the same world. Like, I don't know what's meta about it. Like, you're not withholding information that you need to tell people. Like, I don't know what this critique even means.
Is he trying to call like a flashback, a meta narrative thing or something? I can't
might be.
tell.
Literally,
at this point.
It might be it. I'm not sure.
Hit play?
Yeah, I don't know. It's silly.
Doesn't make sense, and it's long for no reason. Like, genuinely, these whole things are just, it has nothing to do with this. If anybody was reading this, they would tell him to cut a majority of this out. Like, he was exposed to a bunch of radiation, and that, we knew the place had fault lines and stuff, and then they have this whole thing about fault lines, and then this really long thing about, oh my god, guys, is the sound waves, the sound of the tremors are moving, and there's there's no radiation leakage and stuff like that. And then like there's some weird dialogue or line choices here where he goes, above all, science, physics, engineering, mathematics, I am a human being. Bro.
I'm gonna pause it for here. So let's see. I was forced to drag him out. We had to restrain him. He kept yelling there was no radiation leakage, that something was siphoning the plant. I believed him, but I couldn't take any chances if he died. I couldn't sit there and do nothing when someone could be in danger. That's a bit of a moral take here. I refuse to have that blood on my hands again. Above all science, physics, engineering, and mathematics, I am a human being. So, before we go back to the other stuff you screwed up, hey, jerk off, he's right here. This is Sarazawa saying That he's throwing all the high-minded ideals of science and the ways that he should be as a scientist, he's throwing that to the side because this person who you cut off the page here is in danger, and he's not going to let that person who's in danger be hurt. He really wants to help whoever this person is that is on the top of the page that you cut off here. Like, come on, man. It's very clear what's going on here. This is character building. This is us establishing that Serizawa is willing to throw away the more like esoteric ideas and like science and mathematics for the human condition. He's not going to let this person die because he's a fellow human. That's incredibly important details for trying to figure out this guy's like motivations and his life. But you're writing it off here as just some more detail. No, and you're talking about the length. It's as long as it needs to be. I probably am going to guarantee this is too long because I already saw Rooney repeating himself a little bit of times. I'll give you that, but to say its length is unnecessary, I disagree. Because if he's going through and establishing how they felt the whole time, the sense of creeping dread of, okay, we heard there's earthquakes in this region. So when we got a couple shakes, we thought, all right, that's not a problem. And then all of a sudden the shakes got louder and they got more intense and they weren't registering on seismography outside of just underneath us. Then all of a sudden we had a radiation leakage. The numbers started going down, but there was no actual detectable leak. It's just something was siphoning the power away. That's called building dread. It's very good. Mm-hmm. That's a good thing if you want, especially Rooney wants this to be a horror story. Come on, man.
Yeah, that's like I don't hate it, but I do feel like it's a bit lengthy. But that's just me.
Yeah,
I completely agree. It's probably
feel like this is almost him being a bit like aggrandizing of himself in the sentence of just like, above all, I am a human being. But then also with the stuff at the top where it's just like, hey, something really bad happened. It's almost like there's a little bit of subtlety of just like, I am kind of tooting my own horn here, but also like, remember the reason, like, remember this for later. Remember that this guy's kind of like, remember your humanity above everything else before we think about all this other stuff. Remember that first.
I got you, because this is actually part of the guy's characterization, I think, in the actual movies or maybe some other lore. But I remember when I looked up this character, Serizawa, specifically, so that I was like, who is this dude? How do I understand where he's coming from? He was a dude who actually cried and like wallowed to himself when he had to order like kaiju eggs to be killed or something like that. Like, he cares about life for life's sake. Like, he's very like, that's the type of dude that he is. Like, he values all life, and like a human being suffering in front of him, he would definitely jump in. So I don't know about like whether he would write all that shit down and put it in detail, but like as far as characterization goes, it's consistent with who we know him to be anyway before this Rooney fantasy was even written.
Beyond that, again, this kind of reinforces the point that this isn't really exposition. This is a character moment. This is story content.
Yeah. I feel like there's a bit of disconnect between the beginning where he's saying, hey, this is like my suicide note, and then down here where he's kind of giving like his characterization. But I don't like, when you put them together, it kind of creates a bit of a mess, but by themselves, it's not bad. And I kind of appreciate that he's trying to be like, no, like, I want to get everything. He's just sort of putting too many ingredients into his stew here, and it's not working well.
If it was like multiple like weeks worth or maybe like a month's worth of journals that kind of collected the escalation of events from like, oh, we're feeling earthquakes or we're hearing things, and then eventually like a month later it's a different day and he's like, I can't feel my hands, things are getting worse, this happened and this happened. Like, I feel like if he stretched it out a bit longer it would make more sense, but you can give your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
I mean, this is stuff you would. Yeah. This is just stuff you do in revisions, redoing stuff. But this guy decides to jump immediately to, all this is useless. This is terrible. Don't include this stuff. Instead of, we could revise it, work like this. I don't know. Not great.
No, I feel like we could make it work by have it so that way the first one is like the first one you see of just like, please read the entirety of my journal. And then go to this and it's like, no, like, this is stuff that he's all been talking about because he's a scientist. He has to record notes.
Yeah, you can discover a journal on a dead body that's like an entire journal. It doesn't have to just be a note.
That's true. Yeah.
That brings up an interesting.
I feel like that sort of solves both the issues. Sort of.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
thing.
so-
That's why, like, I hate that, like, we have to like critique him because he's our boy, but Rooney really should have looked a little deeper into things like that. Like, just a little bit more. That's all. I get what he's trying to do. You know?
Almost all of the sentences in this paragraph begin with the word "I." Don't do that.
Yeah, that's
You
the
need
right.
to have
Yeah,
word variation.
don't start every
not do that. Yeah. Use word variation. If you see yourself using the same word more than like 2 or 3 times in a paragraph, you have fucked up. You need to not do that. You need to do something other than that.
And
Just
unless there's
as
a
a
reason
tip
you're
in
doing it.
general.
That's the other thing.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
only put is like if you're like trying to be poetic and describing the same little device over and over, and like if you can make it sound good, but like a lot of the times it's tough.
Yeah, or things like the and like or those words you can use more than 2 or 3
Well,
times.
I'll give you an
But, like,
example
the
of
rest of it-
something that you could do. You could use for characterization. And I run multiple D&D games. One of the games I ran, and I'm going to scar a couple of my players. There's a character who was a wizard who thought really highly of himself. He's only like level 2, but he called himself Zagathar the Great. So every time he spoke, he'd be like, "I, Zagathar the Great, think you should go on and do these things." And like every time, and like that's important because that's him gassing himself up. And it goes from, oh, this is bad writing to this is actually good writing because you're now understanding this character is specifically saying the same thing over and over because he's kind of an idiot and he's kind of gassing himself up. That's how you can take what would be a bad rule and turn it into something good. I don't think Sarasawa was this selfish that he would constantly be saying I either. So it just goes into bad writing.
Yeah,
Like,
this
and
is the type of thing that you just look at on your second run through on your draft. You just change things. But he didn't do a second run through. He just pooped this out onto the internet.
It's
So-
All right, so let's go back and let's hit some plays some more. We got 48 minutes left.
Bro, just say above my work. Not that hard. It's so embarrassing how Blackarooni wants to add all this stuff in to make.
Just real quick, I feel like if you just say "above my work, I am a human being," it loses a lot of the impact of the sentence. You can probably have like above science, physics, and engineering, I am a human being. I feel like that would work, but just say above my work just doesn't really sell it.
His work
What's the difference?
He's putting this is above his work is actually a worse thing. That's a selfish thing. That's valuing his work more than anything else. Versus this is valuing humanity's ideals. He's juxtaposing the idea of a human life versus the ideas of a society. This is the
Right.
The opposite of this character would let somebody be executed because the law says that's the right thing, even if they're an innocent man. That's the opposite of this type of character. Somebody who's so by the laws, so by society's wills. It's like that's
No, he's not even by the law. It's not by the law. The opposite would be like if he was in the middle of, but like it wouldn't be the law specifically. It would be like if he was in the middle of like some sort of experiment where he had to put somebody at risk and they were like, help, get me out of the experiment, I'm gonna die. He would let them die. Like it's a complete, like, yeah, the scientific perspective, like I don't think it has to do with laws. I think it has to do with just the priority.
Like, the reason he doesn't list his work, he lists specifically science, physics, engineering, and mathematics, is because that's him saying the ideas that I'm working towards are important, but they're not more important than human life. The abstraction of a societal goals is not more important than the members of that society.
If he just added another preposition to say like the goals of my work are not above my humanity or something like that, like it would a little bit more. But yeah, it would mean essentially the thing you're trying to describe. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. All right, wait, hit play.
So yeah, he just needs a little more. All right.
Make himself seem smart in the story, but it sounds stupid. You're just tacking on a bunch of stuff. Like, you do not need this in here. You don't need a lot of this in here. And so this whole exposition thing actually makes its way to the main stuff, which, as you know, at this point, Blackarooni waffles on for a really long time. You could, the plant is groaning and the whole place is collapsing and Godzilla is absorbing everything. And it's this whole thing. And it's still exposition. You see, like, this stuff is pointless. Please get rid of this stuff. Please.
So first, explain why this is pointless and also show examples of, like, when it says, I swam to the closest wall of rock to find refuge. Like, Are you going to tell me that's not useful? You have to be more specific of like,
Yeah.
I don't
Whatever
know,
you
like,
use for the
specific
story.
sentences you would prefer to cut, or please reformat this to be less wordy because you're focusing too much on the intimate details.
Yeah, and I don't understand, like, he's saying this is useless, but again, this is like story content. This is like stuff is happening. Like what is the purpose of a story? Like he's telling the story. Like how is this purposeless? Like what do you just not want words in your story, sir? What are you asking for here? I don't really
And I will
get
give
it.
you credit. I agree that this is weird that the suicide note has this much detail. That's a good critique. That's a valid point to say, which I think fits better. But saying that the exposition's the problem, that's not it at all. Your actual critique is he wouldn't write this much detail in the suicide note. You know,
Yeah,
unless
I'd
you
maybe
explain it as a
break
summary.
this. I'd maybe break this into a series of wordy entries into a journal, like Pops was saying. I think maybe a series of wordy entries that kind of explain bits and pieces of what happened. Like this just happened maybe a day ago, and maybe have him die of radiation a lot more slowly than he is. Especially because like if he only got this like radiation a few hours ago, either he would be dying instantly or he'd be dying like very 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 slowly. Like it's either enough radiation to make your like meat fall off of your bones, or it's like gonna take a long time to kill you. So
And that, like you
yeah.
said, that allows us to have a much more decompressed story with more details, which is kind of the best of both worlds for what he wants.
I feel like you could also do some sort of imagery of like him slowly dying from the radiation, of just
Yes,
like
it
I'm
would
trying
also
to
help
get
show
these
the
things
horror.
on my back before they kill me.
I want to take a
Like he
quick
can
second.
feel them crawling on his back. Sorry, yep.
Go ahead. Sorry. I want to respond to something Alex Gomez said. Alex says that he had a spat with his clown before. He's not one to engage in good faith. He appeals to subjectivity whenever it suits him. That's fine, Alex. I have no problem with, taking an absolute clown and showing you how to juggle when he keeps dropping his balls. That's fine with me. A bad example is good for those who want to pay attention, just as much as a good example is good for those who want to pay attention. It'll be okay. Don't worry. So let's listen to him talk some more.
Do something that like makes this shorter and actually integrates in this, because this is just too much, right? Too much exposition, too much talking, pretty much. Like this is all you have to offer. Really, really bad, really, really long exposition here. And I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but this is a major Blackarooni problem where he has like these long, long diatribes that don't make sense in the narrative story and also aren't needed. Sarazawa is going to die. Why did he write all this? He didn't have to write every single little piece of this. He could have wrote some of this stuff. He didn't have to say all this. He didn't have to say all that. He never had to say all that. And the thing
I do want to say, I really do actually like this line. I can hear the wind making whistle like a really little haunting tune, like the sound of a hungry oni. I like that concept. I want to tighten that line up a little bit.
Yeah.
Something
you need
like
to cut out the word really. That's another thing. Anytime you have the word really in your story, general adverbs in general, but really specifically, you should cut out the word really.
Oh,
and you should
man.
use a more evocative word every single time.
Yeah.
Every single
There's
time.
hang on one second. Shout out to Zimzilla99
There's so
in
many better
chat.
words.
Welcome, Zimzilla. I'm glad you joined us from work.
That's our
I'll
guy.
probably have you come back later. He's
Oh
a great
my
man. I've been
goodness.
on stream with him before. He helped me settle the Rick situation. So yeah, I look forward to you coming back a little bit later, Zim, and I look forward to you talking to me about it, buddy. So yes, so I do want to say that like you could take this Hungry Oni line and really spin it into something much more interesting. Like say you could hear the wind making a whistle sound, a haunting tune like that of a Hungry Oni. Shorten the words a little bit now, like Pag said, much better. Because like you said, really in a lot of those other adverbs, again, unless it's a character who's kind of an idiot, you probably want to cut those out. If you have like a Valley girl and she's like really, really into this, and maybe Becky and Mike really like each other, or they really, that's fine.
Goodness.
That's okay because that's the character. But like right now, especially this character, Terazawa, he's smart, and I think he should be a little bit more punctual than with some of these descriptions as well, because he should be more clinical, because that's him as a scientist, which again would help with character stuff. Which I think is actually a point that Joseph here would want to make if he understood a little bit better. that I think that's something his, like, there's this line from Plinkett that you may not have noticed it, but your brain did. I think that's what's happening to him here. He knows something's off here, and he's trying to figure it out, so he assumes it's too long. When in reality, it's too verbose for A, suicide note, B, for a man of science in such a way that Serizawa is. I think that's what Joseph is noticing, but he doesn't know how to say that in his video here.
And there's
So
just
it's the
more
content.
phraseology
Yeah.
and word choice.
The soul of what he's getting at is good. The execution is bad.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got the bones. He's got the bones for something good.
Did he
think-
steal them from a
he-
graveyard, or were?
Definitely.
Well, I mean, it's just there. It's there in the script, so I don't know where he got them, but he's got the bones of something good. He just has to work on it. He just needs like 2 or 3 more drafts, and also probably like 4 or 5 years.
And also just pour some milk on there. Replace the calcium. It needs to really.
All right.
This
4
guy
minutes in,
also
and we've been
just
here for 48 minutes. Congrats, boys. We're doing it.
You
We're
know it,
EFAPing.
buddy!
Awesome.
Oh yeah.
Hell
Just
yeah.
goes to show.
All right, let's keep going.
The thing is that Godzilla in this story is 300 meters tall. So Godzilla is the size of the plant itself.
If you're
Yeah,
going to
hang
make
on,
a
hang
claim
on.
like 300 meters,
Because I told
I don't know. Hang on. If you're going to
'Cause
make a
I
claim
told-
like 300 meters, I would like you to show that page because I don't believe you. Because that's 900 feet
I can
tall.
check right now.
no, it's more than that. No, a meter
Yeah,
is
it's more like
3.3
1,000.
feet, so it's
Oh, yeah,
it's
it's
like
1,000.
literally just under 1,000. It's 1,000, pretty much. Yeah.
However, I feel like Rooney would have put 300 feet tall because that's based on conversations we had together. I told him that 300 meters is stupid because that's like monstrosity. Like that's literally
Right. That's like
skyscrapers.
bigger than a skyscraper.
Isn't
You're not
that
gonna
Burj
believe
Khalifa
this.
territory? Isn't the Burj Khalifa about 1,000?
That's I
No.
think the tallest roller coaster is like 500 feet. So like if you've seen a really big roller coaster, like it's probably like 2 or 3 times that. Like it's really
The
big.
Empire State Building is 391, so I know that much.
Is it?
Yeah,
I
the
have-
Burj
yeah.
Khalifa is 2,700 feet tall. It's
Yeah,
it's
so it's
stupid.
so it's half Burj Khalifa.
Super big.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, it's more like
I-
a third, but yeah, it's so.
Yeah.
I don't think. Okay, so it's a Godzilla story. The focusing on how big and or how small Godzilla is silly. It is.
Yeah, he's Godzilla. He's gonna
He's
be
very
Godzilla.
large.
regardless.
Chat is informing me
Yeah.
that Rooney did mean meters. Come on, Rooney.
Yes, I have it pulled up right here. However, he prefaces it by
fine.
saying according
Damn it.
to them. So, could
It's so
it could be
Jover.
off, but still, it says it was 300 meters in size.
Oh yeah, I think they
Footsteps
actually
managed to
mention.
make
I
buildings
think he actually.
fall.
Yeah, he shows it later
I
in
think
the
it- yeah,
video. I think
multiple
he does
times.
show that.
Too tall.
I don't think it is though. I don't. Why is it too
That's
tall?
like, dude. That means that Godzilla is bigger than most like normal buildings and skyscrapers, like absurdly so.
And?
No, like double the size. Yeah.
No, that is way too big. That is.
I don't see that as big. Like he's Godzilla. Like
I understand he's Godzilla, but he's big enough that it literally wouldn't make sense for him to ever not hurt, like kill all humanity. B, be able to like have a chance at not destroying everything. Just his being that tall,
yeah,
he's
he's
gonna have to
Godzilla.
destroy everything. He can't walk
Hang
across the
on.
Golden State Bridge.
Godzilla.
He can't. I understand that, but
Yeah.
that's too big for
Godzilla.
the
Hang on, because
Godzilla.
again, spoiler, and our boy Maz did mention this. He says no Godzilla has been that big except for Godzilla Earth, and so I looked that up, and it is like a gay anime or whatever. But
Yeah,
Godzilla-
I was gonna
Hang
say. I
on,
don't
shut
remember
up.
Where, but someone mentioned that it was some anime he
It was
copied.
Maz. It was Maz, and funny enough, if you actually read that link and did your research like you were supposed to, you would see it does have a lot of the same themes that Rooney is like vaguely trying to express here, as far as like Godzilla versus humans as like a malevolent force. But he says like, oh, that's the only Godzilla that's been that big is Godzilla Earth. And Godzilla Earth lived for, I think, 20,000 Earth years before he got that big, which is like,
Whew.
I don't know if that's relevant, but like, yeah, with what he's trying to say here, I understand saying that 300 meters is too big, but I also agree with Pag, which is like, he's going to be able to destroy shit. Like,
I think
Yeah.
100
Godzilla,
meters
like-
is fine. 100 meters makes him
Yeah,
as tall as
that's-
skyscrapers. He can smack them
Okay,
around.
So,
It's still fun though.
so I also agree. I also agree that a 100-meter tall Godzilla is totally fine. Godzilla only has to be big enough that he can tackle buildings. That's all. That's all he needs to be big
Right.
enough. But
Yeah.
any increase in size beyond that, it's fine. It's just more Godzilla. Like you've already got Godzilla. It's just more Godzilla, and that's perfectly fine. I don't see any issue with having more God until he's like too big to like step on.
and it's there's
No.
there's no is there like an explicit background for Godzilla in Rooney's story that says like
second.
that he just got
Yeah,
he just
shows
got
up here.
caused?
Hang on 1 second. We have to shout out Legacy. He gave me a super chat. Some of the villains I have
Legacy.
who can become giant don't pass the maximum of 100 feet tall without straining. That is a fantastic limitation on superpowers. By the way, if you want to learn more about Legacy and his superpowered universe, come check out the stream we did last week. We did a nice deep dive and really went into the details on him. And I had a lot of fun with that stream.
Wow, a
He's got
double
good
shell.
universe, though.
Wow.
He's been working hard.
Mm.
He's been
Hey.
working hard. Show him some.
Hey, that is
That's
literally
our
the
boy.
only person on the only way the internet you can get any details on Legacy's story is my stream. We have the exclusive scoops.
That's true.
Oh
that's
my
true.
goodness.
You know-
the even bigger double shell. Wow.
Exactly.
Maz, I do agree with you that Rooney doesn't have the skill to write a response to something that large. I do agree with you. That is fair.
Maz brings it
but-
up.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, okay. So if you're talking
300
pure
meter Godzilla.
abstract, sure, I'll agree that you can make a Godzilla that big. However, I think that I would personally cap it at 100 meters because 300 feet, 30 feet is still absurdly huge. But like, you can still handle that. At least I can understand how the military can like somewhat try to fight that. Because when this thing shows up, it's so big that we should just launch every weapon we have at once just to see what happens. There's no, maybe we
Yeah,
should
yeah.
shoot him with a tank
Yeah.
or something first. This is all right. There goes Chicago. Just nuke it. We'll figure it out later. Nuke everything.
Like you know which movie doesn't get enough credit was Godzilla '98.
Oh my goodness.
It's the
Established
one
it's
where
the best
it's-
Godzilla
it's-
multiple times.
Bro's bringing up the goat.
So Zilla, colloquially, they call it Zilla because they don't recognize it as a true form of Godzilla, But it is about 100 meters tall. It's about the size of a building. It can knock down a building, but it does take damage, and they do end up defeating it at the end. No spoilers, sorry. But yeah, 3 times that size. Woo, I don't know. It's tough.
That's not even fun anymore. That's just that's a cosmic
Yeah.
scale. That's just you're looking at it and like, oh god, I may as well just go read Warhammer
But I think
if I want things this retarded.
Rooney is
Exactly.
going for horror. Rooney is going for horror.
get
I don't think
that,
he has the chops quite yet to write. Like Matt says, I don't think he has the chops to write the like dread that seeing something, the size of like half a mountain moving would cause in a person. I don't think he has the chops to write that. But I can understand why Rooney would make this version of Godzilla who's just like a force of nature so fucking big. Because, the whole idea is it's fucking too much to
I don't think he
respond to.
understands how tall 300 meters is. I think that's the real problem. It's hard for
Yeah.
someone to fathom that. No, it really is. All right, I love Rooney.
No, you're right.
I know where he lives.
Because
I
Yes,
know the
that was
buildings
about-
around where he lives. I don't believe they get that tall.
Yeah, I mean,
I
it's
feel like how you
3
could also
football
write it-
fields end to end, and that's hard for people to visualize.
Not for Americans.
Yeah.
I feel like how you could do it
Oh.
is don't mention the exact height and let the viewer fill in how big he actually is for the sense
Yeah.
of horror of just like he was towering over even the largest skyscrapers. And it was in that moment I really knew how worthless my life was. Or something like that.
You're right. Yeah,
Well,
because coming from the perspective of like a regular human being who sees him on a boat, you wouldn't be able to tell how tall he is realistically. I mean, you could say like he dwarfed our biggest whatever. Oh shoot, dude! Yeah, 300 meters is like
Let's
he
see,
wants
just
to sound
looking.
smart, he wants to sound technical, but
Just a
gosh,
quick
damn.
Google search, by the way. Based on Rooney's hometown, which I'm not going to dox those of us here know where he lives. This Godzilla is about 50 meters taller than the largest building in where he lives. That is insane. The tallest buildings are like 250-ish. So like,
Okay.
he does not live by the mountains. Where he lives is very flat.
No.
It has some skyscrapers, but the tallest skyscraper he has is 250 feet. Man, I live near where Rooney is, and there's a hill nearby that we call blank blank mountain, and you wouldn't even consider a hill if we were in West Virginia. This would be that mound would be the flatland in West Virginia.
It's so funny to see someone like go on a vacation somewhere where there's mountains, like Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, California, you name it, Wyoming, all this shit.
I went to Colorado for the first time 3 years ago, and it blew my mind just being able to have, like, while we're staying, just looking like, oh my God, the mountain's there. Like, I can't touch it,
dude,
but I can see the thing.
Yeah, the craziest part is you'll see a mountain and like it's already like 2 hours drive away, and like you look at the sea level, go up a mountain, you go, oh, I'm 5,000 feet above sea level, and you go, how far above sea level am I at home? And it's like 0.
No, you joke. Yeah, I remember checking. I am currently 12 feet above sea level at my house. When I was in Colorado, I did go above 5,000. I went up to, what's that town that's a tourist town that, like, Aspen, is it? It's a huge tourist thing up there.
Big,
yeah, I literally was passing out because there's no oxygen up there. That was fun. I remember driving down the mountain and waking up at the bottom of the mountain. That was quite an interesting drive. All right, let's go back to Godzilla, though.
So you're telling me you discovered teleportation?
I did. And time travel.
That's called sleeping genius. Sleeping in
That's why you're the king. He knows teleportation.
Exactly. All right, let's hear Joseph out.
And that's insane. No Godzilla story has ever had such a large Godzilla beyond like Godzilla Earth, but Godzilla Earth never existed in a setting as 300 meters when humanity was still around. He was 300 meters when he basically was the sole undisputed ruler of the planet. Like, this shit is corny over here. Like, the sound of a hungry Oni. Like, yeah, thank you. Thank you for reminding us, these Japanese guys. But this...
What else? Like, that's a good description.
What? Oh, that makes sense. It would be really weird if it's just like, it sounded like a vampire. It's just like, what the... That's European. What do you mean?
That sounded
Sasquatch.
He's just sitting there like, oh, this sound. It sounds like a genie. What? This genie sounding thing. Well, come on, man.
I want to give Rooney
Monsieur, this very large thing sounds like a very bad croissant.
It's funny, when you started that, I wasn't sure if you meant to be French or not. I was like, why does this Japanese accent sound French?
You don't think I am Japanese? What is wrong? Oh.
I am Simizawa, first one. Oh, we got another drop in.
Well,
I was born and raised in France.
Yeah.
I want to, dude. This is another instance where I'm like, he's right and wrong, because like
Farius insulted Pag directly. We have to talk about it. Ooh. Sorry, not all Farius. $20. Congratulations. By the way, I would like to thank Not All Farius personally. He finally gave me enough money that, based on YouTube's, tax, I believe I can cash out now. I will finally be able to get my first check out. And I was going to announce this at the end of the stream, but I'll announce it now. With my first check from YouTube, I'm going to get a green screen set up. That's the first thing I'm buying. So you might be seeing my face soon, boyos. I'll still keep it kosher for the live streams here. But on videos, I'll be able to show you some of my figures and stuff and make videos even better. So, Not All Farius says, I'd like to point out that the Japanese, much like sci-fi authors, have no grasp of scale or numbers in general. Get fucked, Pag. Just look at the heights and weights they have for characters.
Farius, you whore.
Oh, you got another one! Yeah! Also, I lack context. Who is this guy? Why does he sound like he should be making power scaling videos about DBZ? Bam! Got him. So this guy is Joseph Narukami, I think. What's the last name garbled?
Narukami.
He decided to come after Blackarooni's story, which is kind of not good and kind of has some problems. But he took what should be a slam dunk and basically ruined it. He had all the opportunity he did in the world to critique it and use Rooney's story as a storytelling thing and help give the guy guidance. Instead, he let his own personal hatred for Rooney get in the way and really tear it down. It's quite unfortunate. That's what we're talking about here.
Also, to add to the first super chat of they have heights and weights that don't make sense. Do you know how much Vegeta weighs? Vegeta from Dragon Ball.
Oh my goodness, not
I need to know.
DBZ.
It's 98 pounds. It's fucking 98 pounds.
No, fuck you, bro. No. I'm
No,
literally.
I'm fucking stupid.
No.
I'm
Like,
thinking
This
of
is what. Yeah,
Oh
well,
my God.
guys, you gotta have to remember. This is
Listen.
why all those short. This is why like
What
Vegeta
the fuck
appeals to
Dude.
Mexicans so much because he's so short.
The
I could have
skinny,
sworn somewhere that he was
Dog.
98.
the skinniest women, the skinniest women who are like 5 foot nothing have like a goal of being like under 100 pounds. Like,
Oh,
there's
fuck
no
me. Did I...
get the fuck. Like, what is he? He's got balloons up his
I
ass. Like,
believe it's solely because Vegeta
What
is
is-
like so small.
Yeah, he looks
I
I
like-
got,
I
apparently
think-
got it wrong. He's like 120 pounds according to the wiki, but I want to
Oh
find.
my
He's still
goodness,
tiny
this
for
I
a-
guy.
I distinctly
muscle, dude.
remember there being. I
man.
Yeah, but he's
distinctly
about
remember
like
there being a
5'4"
meme.
or something. To be fair.
All right, so since
it's
Pag
still
died,
he's
I'm
like
gonna have to
5'4".
take the responses. I agree that a lot of sci-fi authors have stupid numbers. The problem that is, with the help of not Alfarius, like great example, Star Wars. The EU has the
Hey.
numbers absurdly stupid. The reason it's so terrible is because we only ever see like 3 dudes piloting a spaceship, and then it's like, oh yeah, every Star Destroyer is a complement of 20,000 people. But it's like, a single pilot crashed into one and killed 3 of them.
Now, hang on. Have you've read Peg's books?
Yes.
I found the image. I got the
Oh,
weight exactly
shut up.
wrong.
I
But
hate
also-
everything about this image. I hate everything about it.
I'm not putting it
Oh,
on the
it's
I
site.
hate you
God.
personally for posting
I'm
it.
not putting this on
I
site.
got
I'm
the
sorry,
number
Garbo.
wrong. It's not 98 pounds because I can't do
Yeah, you better
conversions.
not put that on screen. I hate that image.
If
And
you
I
want to
hate
see the
you for
image, go to
posting.
the server and tag Garbo. He'll send it to you privately.
I can,
What am I
like,
looking
do you want me to
at?
send it like one of the general channels?
How about I just kill you? What if we
Yes.
do that?
All right, so
I'm down.
Pag
Come on,
had to
kill
go
me.
real quick. Not Alfarius, I promise you, I will hit him with your super chats when he comes back from dealing with his child. Go buy his book in the meantime, everybody. So let's listen to Joseph while we wait.
All of them.
This part but this whole Hungry Oni part actually is funny because it leads into this weird Christianity angle, like, but that thing, even in hell, that thing will haunt me. That thing is nothing God made. Do not hold him accountable. These guys live in Japan.
Japan has Christians. There's a
Not just
law.
that.
I
That.
mean,
Portugal,
to be
they
fair,
allow
there's
this.
not a
Ugh.
lot of them. There's not a lot.
Not just that,
I mean,
but if you were to
still.
translate, well, man, this is a common thing. Buddhism has hell. Buddhism, Japanese Buddhism specifically, has, I think, 97 different hells, including one for pregnant women who die before giving birth, which is just very funny. But
Yo, that's right.
Based?
yeah,
Oh my
they
gosh, I
also
love
have a
Buddhism now.
creator being. They have several creator beings in Japanese mythology. In fact,
Yep.
if you wonder why the Japanese decided to do some fun times at Nanking, it's because their mythology says God created the universe, then he created the earth, then he created all the people, then he said all people are stinky and ugly, so he made some beautiful islands, put the most beautiful people there, then he lived there, and that's how Japan got made. That's their mythos, that they're not just created with humanity, that God lives with them and he said they're the best people ever. So yeah, they do have God in their society. I understand because Rooney definitely later starts throwing a lot of Christian stuff in, and at the bottom here it says God save us. I feel like that's a bit more on the nose, but the idea that, this is not a thing that God made, you could have changed it by putting, any of the, different Japanese mythological figures there. Anything that, Amaterasu made or something like that, that could work too. But they also just generally have a rough idea of Buddha. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
I was
feel
gonna
like
say
also,
it shouldn't be God made. It should either be a specific God, or it should be that the gods made, plural, to kind of emphasize.
You could have
more.
also just said that is nothing of this world. It's from a different, a hell dimension.
What happened?
What is he doing? What is he doing?
They have a lost PNG hell? Someone ping Tio.
oh god, it's hilarious.
Get him.
And
Got
also,
him.
I was gonna say is, God save us. Also, such a generic phrase. I feel like I could hear
Yes.
anyone saying yeah, that makes sense.
Nah,
It's so
I hear
common
atheists
now.
say
that's
that.
probably more Western.
I
feel like that's a
hear tons of
Western
people say
thing.
that.
Yeah.
I also hear
kinda
right.
Alex
think that's-
Gomez was
I
talking
don't think
about
that's
this guy must have.
happening in Japan.
Yeah,
I'd
I
be
mean,
surprised
maybe.
if something was happening in Japan.
maybe. And Alex Gomez also said this dude must have a lot of issues with Neon Genesis Evangelion. I'm like, Yeah, yeah.
So that's funny, but I
He's
actually
gonna have a heart
disagree
attack.
because that is a story about Christianity. This is supposed to be like a real life person who suddenly has Godzilla. Again, I understand like this critique. I think this is a semi valid critique here, but it's much more like I
Right.
wouldn't say it's wrong because it's Christian. I'd say much more it's wrong because I don't feel like A, this character would believe in God, B, that this character would be like pleading like this, and I also feel it's cliche. So.
It is
All right.
definitely very cliche.
He
Alright.
does fall into some fucking. Oh, if he just phrased things differently and just revised it and like just figured out how to make it sound a little more intimate as far as like Japanese perspective or whatever perspective goes, like it wouldn't sound so generic. But he just he just needs more work,
Fumble.
dude. It
Yeah.
breaks my
Yeah.
heart that he put this
Yeah.
shit on public.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah, it's all right.
But Pops, you see, this guy said Rooney should stop Ryan after this. There's no revisions anymore,
No
obviously.
more revisions.
So true. It's so over for Rooney. after
Speaking of
this.
it being
He's
over for
never
Rooney,
doing
let's see what else
anything
he has
ever
to
again.
say about this.
Oh my
Why is there
goodness.
Christianity involved in something such as this in such a old time, right? And Christianity has been possible in Japan for a long time now. But the point that I'm making is that why is this so Christian centric? But it gets even more Christian centric later. Like, oh yeah, God save us, and that's all. With love, Ishio Serizawa. Like, you didn't write a whole 10-page thing about how Godzilla's gonna kill us all, and it's corny. It's really corny. It's not very good to read, but hey, at least maybe the later stuff will probably be better. It's not. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to tell you.
Damn, I'm so sad that it's not better. Also, I think
Right, that
ending
was-
with love, Rooney, come on, don't.
I was
with
gonna
love.
say, with love is not very good. I don't know why
No.
with love is there.
You all need to save yourselves. It's a terrible world. With
The
love,
world's gonna
it's me.
end with love.
For the love of God! For the love of God! And I love you all. Thank you all for coming out, and be sure to like, share, subscribe.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit play.
Don't
Oh,
fuck with it. Don't.
oh my god.
Don't use with love.
So in chapter 2, Otherworldly, we start with this whole thing, 2,300 meters, whatever, the longitude and latitude southeast of the Tokai.
Please, for the love of God. 2,300 hours. Hours means 11 p.m. in military time. Please. We can keep going. It's just.
No, it's not you. It's just
That's
this
what
is
I
want to
mean.
say, Joseph.
Disingenuous,
If you're gonna
bro.
be this vindictive and this petty to Rooney, you can't screw up basic stuff, man. You can record twice. This video is an hour.
Make good
this video is
slander.
this video is 51 minutes and 17 seconds long, and it took him 52 minutes and 17 seconds long. It took him 30 seconds to download and 30 seconds to type the title when he hit upload. Do a little bit better, man. It's not hard to critique this story. We've done it plenty here already. And like, come on, my
Oh
friend.
god.
I want you to make this like a good critique. If you really want to show Rooney why he's wrong, then rip him apart by having this point and this point and this point. You're just shooting for things here. You're shooting like, 2,300 meters or whatever. Why? That's just taking extra pot shots. And by missing, it makes you think you can't shoot. Come on, man.
Yeah,
Wow.
no, you can only take like valid. You can only take little pot shots like that if everything you've already said is like concrete, valid. Like you're dead wrong. Like you can't just come out with random shit like that because, like, honestly, as a content creator, as somebody who knows a lot of content creators, at least I would say, it sounds petty. Like it comes across a certain way.
And also, you're not
Yeah.
like the cornering who makes 500 videos a day. I've seen your channel. You make a decent amount of videos, but you could go back and re-edit some stuff and redub a line or two. It's okay. Nobody's gonna kill you for that. Anyway, let's listen to him talk more.
Power plant. Fleet number is 300. 35 between the ages of 21 to 35, 65 between 40 years old and beyond. You got all these dudes. Fleet captain, by the way, is not like a rank in this context. It doesn't get any better, right? It's a destroyer. So obviously, that's a thing.
Come on, man. How are you going to do this to me?
Hang on, what is
He's
what is he
completely
talking
Flight
correct.
captain is not a rank.
What is
He's
he talking
Moving on.
about?
What do you mean?
correct.
Yeah.
Fleet captain is not a rank. Last time it was a rank was in 1862 in United States Navy before the Civil War. There has never been an equivalent rank in the Japanese Navy. Also, I don't know, like, I can't show him, but what's his fleet number? 300. I think that's supposed to be like the amount of people in the crew, which is fine, but Rooney, you fucked this up here. You should say crew consisting of 300 men, 35%, and I also don't know why the percentages are broken down like that. The military wouldn't break them down like that in these two categories. Also, Rooney, between 21 and 35, you can join the military at 18, so you're missing 3 years there. In 35, okay, but then you jump to 40. Is there nobody who exists between the ages of 35 and 40? Like, come on, my friend.
I didn't even realize this. This is a lot
just
worse
feels
than I
like
realized.
he
You're
needed
right.
to do another
Dude,
draft.
That is,
Yeah.
I mean, all of you, like this scene specifically is where I start to kind of break down and be like, this guy is making valid points. Like this is I do not.
And this is what I was going to say. This
You
is
know
why I
what's
was going to do
even
this.
with the fleet number, yeah, like with the fleet number, it's also weird that he says fleet number and it's the
Yeah.
men on board and not the actual like composition
Fleet.
of the fleet.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
And this is
This is
weird.
why I
how
wanted
many
to cover this video.
destroyers. This is how many.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Hopefully,
actually,
I mean, with
you know
him
how Pop
joining-
said this is what got him to think that Joseph was doing a little bit right. This is what made me want to cover this because Joseph, you're correct
Right.
here. You got some great points here, and this next few bit of the video, he actually goes through and starts pointing out some really valid, weird things. I'm also going to give him a couple bit of legs up here. I'm 99% sure that the 7.62 round was not around in 1931. Because I'm pretty sure that the 7.62 is a NATO bullet.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh,
762
no.
is NATO.
yeah.
No. It wouldn't be 1930
Look, guys,
because it says date of
guys.
birth is 1931, age 53. So I assume that they're saying this is 1980s.
Yeah.
Wait,
I mean,
you're right. Oh,
oh,
my
oh,
goodness.
Maz, are you in the chat? Tell us.
Sure, I mean,
The reason why I brought up the fleet captain thing earlier is more of like, if it's a really easy fix, just tell them what you should be putting in there as opposed to fleet captain.
Wouldn't it be? I probably would get this wrong. Admiral? I feel like would be commander of a fleet.
I mean, if
I'm
there's
not
only
sure.
destroyers, I don't think it'd be admiral. Like, would it be
This
admiral if
is one of
there's
those
only
things,
destroyers?
it could be.
This is one of those things where I would have. Is Pag's not in here, right?
Peg is gone, so he's useless.
No, he got taken behind the shed. Don't
He's
ask what
literally
happened
dead.
to him.
to
wait.
us.
I think
I hate
the
it
reason
now.
we're messing up is
Until it
I
shows
think
up
it's
next
just
time.
one ship. I don't think it's like a fleet. I think it's genuinely just one ship with how Rudy
Yeah.
does it. So like, no, there wouldn't be an admiral
Like
then.
2 or 3.
It wouldn't be an admiral if it's one ship. That's the thing. I don't
Here's
know
the
what
other
it would
thing.
be,
Yeah.
but it,
The next
like maybe
problem-
captain, but
shit.
like it's definitely not.
So the
I
next
wish Pag
problem
was
here
here. I
is, so I just want to go over this. It says, you know, the 7.62, 54 MMR, which is ammunition cartridge for a Zasva. What do you mean ammunition cartridge? Like, one bullet? That doesn't make sense. You know, is it a spent or, you know, you don't say cartridge. Also, Zasva M80, M480, that's a machine gun that's made by Zatsva, which is used in like the
Dude,
Yugoslavian civil wars and stuff like that. It's designed by Yugoslavia. Why would this be on a Japanese ship and it's a machine gun?
Wait,
Look, the Japanese
why would the ship be
love
around?
Yugoslavia.
Dude,
Okay, Tito was the best guy ever.
He's the
Okay,
guy.
national hero.
It's basically a Yugoslavian knockoff of a Russian PKM. Like again, most of you guys probably know what a PKM is. Yes,
Uh-huh.
yes, pops.
Go on.
Yeah, so most of you know that's the standard issue. If you ever played any World War II or like 1960s COD game, that's the Russian machine gun, not RPD. The RPD is like similar to it though. So this is just a machine gun. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, why would again Rooney pick this? And also 6'1". I don't think there's ever a Japanese man that's 6'1". Why would you pick that as the height?
Oh my
It's
goodness! Look
Why
at
didn't you make it like
racism!
5'10"?
Oh my
That's like a more
goodness.
reasonable height. Like, also born in 31.
Another
They
thing,
were
why not
starving
put
when
in
this guy was
metric?
born.
Short,
He didn't have
tall.
food for the first decade of his life. So this right here,
Why not put
this is
in
where
metric
Joseph's
too if
going
it's
to
supposed to be like
go.
a Japanese document?
Look, no. Okay, we
Yeah.
colonized.
Also, why
them.
does
Okay,
it just
they're
say
using
destroyed
God's
for
measure.
ship status? What happened?
Yeah. Well, another thing
It's
is,
broken.
if Rudy's getting
gone.
so specific with the ship, but all the results I find for it are like from the 30s and 40s. Why would this be around the 80s if this guy's
No
51
way!
years
Is
old?
it really from the 30s? and
Yes,
40s?
all the picture I get is like 1934.
Yo,
No!
Was effectively retired as a class because the destroyers aren't really effective anymore. They're kind of gone because after they realized, hey, on aircraft carriers, destroyers are like useless now. But I want to continue with this video because I'm really excited because now Joseph gets to show us his good critiques.
Yeah,
And you got the depth charges left intact. That's impossible. Aren't you supposed to be like logical? Like this is not working already. Like
All right.
Alfarius! Alfarius, why are you giving...
No! What is this
Alfarius,
doing?
let's go. Another one. If I recall, a cruiser is a minimum that would have a flag officer. E is correct about that. And a task force, like a small group of destroyers led by a cruiser for anti-submarine warfare and such, might have a real admiral leading it. That is true, but I believe this takes place in the 80s, which means that if this is in the 80s, which, again, we're assuming based on context clues, that there's no reason for them to be sending out a cruiser fleet looking for submarines. This is the Japanese after World War II. They've gotten severely smacked around. At best, they're asking the Americans for stuff. And thank you so much, Ned Alfarius. I really appreciate you, my friend.
I hate that he paid $20 for that because it's literally useless because it also has ship type destroyer, which means it sounds like there's only one ship and he's putting in this detailed explanation of like a task force.
Xenodrome, the part of the story that's nihilistic, a lot of it is actually in the sewer side.
Oh, it's
By the way,
later.
we're talking about that. You know, it's just, it's okay.
No,
Google. It's a slide. A lot of that's in the beginning, but we'll get to it in a second too. Don't you worry, man. He is calling this a nihilistic story. It might be a bit much, but it is. It gets depressing, needlessly.
I don't want to spoil it, but I have a few points for the things that he says are nihilistic, specifically why they're nihilistic, as well as how the actual writing is. But if we get to that, we'll get to it.
Oh, we're going to get to it. Don't worry. We're flying through this part. This is where Joseph starts good critiques, so we don't have to pause it much except to say, yes, I agree.
Like 3 just are left intact, but the ship status is destroyed. Okay. And so immediately you come into this issue. This is not a mission report. This really is not
Legacy.
a mission.
All right, Legacy sent another chat. I don't want to boast.
Look
I
at
didn't write
this
high
guy.
octane, autistic about the details. My first few drafts aren't this hectic besides one gay line. So I agree, Legacy. A lot of your problems with your first drafts are, like, how do I put this? Issues from a lack of expertise. Your drafts are, the story is usually good. You at least know the characters that are going on. The issues that I tend to see you having is Brandon Sanderson actually talks about this a lot when he's talking about writing, where if you don't know how like surgery works and you try to write a surgical scene, the moment anybody who's ever dealt with surgery reads it, they're gonna be like, hang on a second, what are you talking about? You clearly about this wrong. That's the problem with a lot of these things. So, like with yours, your history, you're talking about the different alternate histories you had. Immediately, me as a historian, that caught red flags to me. That's why I was able to help you correct some of your historical stuff. But I do think that your details are much better.
Right.
I really think it's great. Hey, be nice, Xenodrome. They're paying for this.
Zeno, first of all, what have you ever written, Zeno? Link us.
Movie reviews?
Next up.
BS.
Next up, credit to Rooney for at least like researching 2 words of the Japanese language and setting the story somewhere where you at least potentially could do enough research to like make it coherent and make it like kind of have the same implications as it would have in that day. I really appreciate that. Like I am a particular, like I love historical fiction and shit like that. So if it's done right, like I'll dick ride it. But
that's what bothers me because like he could have very easily found some actual Japanese details. The Japanese military is not very secretive, right, especially because we killed all of them. So now at this point they're like, well, just be open about it. Also, I just know based on the reading of Ken Tachibana, I know Tachibana is a last name. It really should be Tachibana Ken. I get it. We have white people storylines here, but
right.
They do a transcript from the Japanese.
Yeah.
These are just little details that just bother me because, like, if you're the one who chose to have your story set in Japan. You're the one who chose to have this written by Japanese people. If you're gonna have it translated,
I know what
you have a note saying translated or like something so that, like at least you can understand. Oh, this is why it's not written like this, because it gets to the point where as a reader, if I'm supposed to assume these are Japanese people doing their Japanese stuff, then I shouldn't have their last names translated for me. However, if you're going to because I don't know if the story actually goes to outside of Japan, but man, yeah, he should have written some Harry Turtledove stuff. That would have helped him a little bit. Yeah, I agree, Mass. Turtledove
Wait,
gets
it was a
stupid and
full
weird,
fleet.
but
There were 10 ships.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
next
it
thing here is
Yeah.
the ships are also I know Joseph does get into this, so I do want to give him some good points here. Well, I'm going to jump the gun here. Joseph points out that if the ships are 20 feet away from each other, that is insane.
Oh yeah.
That is basically like as
Yeah.
I told my
Like
one
you're
of my
playing Battleship.
well, no,
Hell,
hang on.
bro.
So I asked because this is part of the video. Where I was very curious. I have a friend who owns a boat. I said, "Hey, if your boat was 20 feet next to another boat, like, is that too close?" And this is just guys on the lake. He said, "Oh yeah, that's butt sex distance, boy. That's too close for your boat." So just know that the
Wait,
local
actually,
redneck calls it that.
Right.
Wait, that's a good. That's actually a point. That's a different point. How many are in the fleet? Because now I'm confused. Because now there's
10.
I forgot about
10
this line. So there's at
apparently.
least like
10.
there's 10.
10
huh.
including his ship, and then they're 20 feet apart. So in case you need to turn this 340-foot ship, gotta give that 20 extra feet in case you need to turn.
It's very
God.
simple. What was
You're-
happening is
you
that
just
they
need
were
to be good
playing
at that.
Battleship, and he wanted to do the cheeky strat where you just stack all your ships on top of each other, and then when your opponent doesn't hit anything, you just piss them off. It's simple.
True.
There's no excuse for that.
Dang it,
Wreck
Rooney.
yourself, bro.
All right, so let's let Joseph get some wins in real quick, guys. He's going to start doing the
Yeah.
same things we just brought up.
Report. Like, Blackarooni is so obsessed with logic here that we have to go hard on this whole criticizing everything, nitpicking it to the death. Like, for example, they wouldn't say the coast of Orarai or whatever it is. They would just say Orarai or whatever it is. I apologize for any misspellings. Commander Akira Takashima, commander wouldn't be the word used here. It would be admiral. And codename Gojira, which Gojira wasn't established whatsoever. You are just kind of just saying that stuff. That is
Who's got that?
It's correct because it wouldn't be called codename Gojira. They would have given it something like technically it would be UWO, unidentified, or it would be UUO, unidentified underwater object. That's what they would go with it as.
Okay.
Or if it's on land, it would just be unidentified, like terrestrial object, UTO. That's what it should be. I understand why he wants to codename Gojira, because that also kind of, I think if I recall, that means whale in Japanese, which makes sense as to why they would call it that. And that's why it got that name in the original Godzilla movies. But right here, it's not listed at all. If you're going to bring up why it's codenamed Gojira, you should have had a second thing beforehand explaining and establishing it. Because why would this guy in his report give the code name unless this captain who survived knows it? That doesn't make sense. If you did know it, how do you get so completely bodied by being 20 feet apart?
You could have it say
that, and why are they bringing 20 destroyers to this 300 giant creature fight?
You know what? That actually fucks up that. Oh my goodness, you're right, because that messes up.
The 300 meters is where the 10 destroyers really.
I know. There's a problem with that because there's another critique later on, and I hate to spoil, but again, it's something about the scale of how powerful this creature is and the type of consideration.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Go ahead.
If you want to have Gojira in, you could make it like we came across the unidentified underwater object. Most of the crew have begun dubbing this thing Gojira. It's something like that.
Exactly.
Just have the crew saying it, the crew calling it whale, all this stuff. It's just have like that. It's so much easier.
So I don't know. I don't know if Gojira actually means whale. Does it? Because I haven't. Because if it does,
but I think that if you again, you're the storyteller here, you could just say that, and I'd believe it. Or you're the Godzilla expert, dude. Look it up. I shouldn't be the one looking this up and knowing things.
Well, if it does,
It
then based
does,
on
yeah.
okay, yeah, because
I
then
want
there, Des, please, I swear,
to.
please, just let me just unveil the autism for a moment. Like there was I think I don't know if he was Swedish, he was some sort of Nordic Scandinavian type of dude who wrote like an entire encyclopedia of the wildlife that lives in the North Atlantic Sea and everything. And he called it a whale by his own language, but he was referring to the kraken. So like basically any big sea animal back in the day used to be called a whale. So calling Godzilla a whale as something that like has a huge hump that rises up under the water and comes from there, it's a big sea animal. So yes, technically, whale back in the day meant that thing. So I get it.
Yeah. I have to correct myself
Okay.
10 seconds after saying it does mean whale. It's actually a
Okay.
combination of two words of gorira, which is gorilla, and kujiro, which means whale. So it's basically
Gorilla!
Gorilla whale.
Or
yeah,
a
gorilla
whale
whale, yeah.
I just want to point out.
So
that
what your
is
description
cool,
is, you have it
That
say,
still makes
the
sense.
crew started talking to this thing as
still makes-
gorilla whale because it swam like a whale but had the strength of a gorilla. And it's like, oh, so if it's gorilla whale, but they combined it and just made it Gojira. It's like, oh, that's a cool thing right there. Oh. Damn
I
it,
just want
Rudy.
to point out 2 comments from chat. Maz points out that apparently there's only one ship listed because that's the only one that had survivors. And then Xenodrome is saying, Kitty, that was a peacock.
Hey,
Get it right.
Mass, I want to point out here. We had brought a full fleet of 10 destroyer ships, my ship
What was the
included,
peacock?
helmed by the following 10 captains. And they list them all here. There are 10 ships here. Even
No.
if only one makes it out.
Maz is saying that only one ship survived.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah, no, even if one survived, it should still be
Wait,
listed.
but
as
I don't think it's
I'm
like
okay,
guessing
hold on a
Maz is
second.
just saying that because one survived, that's why
Yes.
it's listed only one.
Come on.
I don't think it
Wrong.
survived though.
I don't
think
think
it
it
says
either.
ships
I'm going to scroll
that's
back a little bit.
destroyed.
Hang
It
on a
really
second.
is not.
I'm going to have to scroll back a this.
Yeah, I have
because
it
I want to
here.
see. If you look here, 3
Eiji
survivors.
Shikishima is a fleet captain. He's
Well, hang on a
not
second.
mentioned
No,
in the
hang-
10 fleet captains.
Don't worry, we'll get to that in a second, Matt. Garble, we'll get back to
Okay.
that. I want to show this thing.
Okay.
So fleet number 300. That means there are 300 people here. He should list ships here. It says ship status destroyed. Okay, survivors 3. Is this only his ship that we're talking about here? If so, why would he then list the
Does
other
it
10
say
ships
3
here?
people survived?
Survivors
It's-
3.
no,
very
no,
bottom.
it's-
Oh, yeah, it does say 3. I'm sorry, I was looking at the 3 depth charges. I couldn't see the survivors.
Yeah,
It was
it's
on the
okay.
bottom of the screen. That's my bad.
No, the king is right. Like he should put it on record because he's trying to make it look like this official, technically correct, like whole report thing and everything.
Yeah,
So
it's
the ships would have names. Yeah.
the ships would have names, and also
yeah, that too.
if he's
Yeah,
being
they
so
would also have
technical with it, all of these ships, if 300 is spread out between the fleet because
Yeah.
there's fleet number, if it's 300, all of these ships are drastically undermanned because the ship he used has a complement of 180. So not great
That's-
at this point.
That's
All right.
kind of where it starts to get screwy for me because the whole critique is because Godzilla fans. I don't want to shit on them, but I feel like by and large they don't prescribe to the same or subscribe to the same like EFAP kind of mentality that Rooney tries to does with the logical consistency and why this it doesn't make sense. So like they do kind of turn on him and like use that perspective against him, and he really should have done a little more research before releasing a draft here. But
That's also
Well, Pops, are you excited? We're almost at your favorite line. Let's hit play.
Oh,
That's like,
no.
oh yeah,
What do you mean his
Godzilla
favorite
was this
line?
thing, and it reminds the people. And they got 10 destroyers. Full fleet of 10 destroyers, which is not a full fleet, which they have whatever. Captains are not the only rank again. So we were ordered to position our ships lateral, each hull facing each other, with each second ship positioned 20 feet forward should one need to turn. By the way, I just need you to know that 20 feet forward, all these ships are going to be like right next to each other, crammed into each other. Like they can't do anything. So they can't turn, they can't really fight, and it's not going to go well. But, It's whatever.
Valid.
Our artillery, which they
Yep.
wouldn't call it that, was positioned directly at the mainland. We were forbidden by our commander, which again, that's not a thing here, and then really not, to avoid the mainland, to avoid any projectiles launched by Gordra towards the ship. Are we talking about ships or ship here? Like, this is random here.
It's
We
got
were
a
also informed
valid
that a
points.
ranged weapon dubbed Atomic Breath
Mhm.
due to its radioactive qualities. You could tell he just needs that kind of like money shot type stuff, you know? And then you have, we
Not
were
bad
instructed to
things.
overwhelm it with artillery fire and focus.
So a couple things. He is correct that it shouldn't be called artillery. They'd be called batteries or main guns. You know, that's what you'd actually
Yep.
fire. You don't fire
Right.
artillery from a ship. Second, why is it dubbed atomic breath? Like who? You know,
I was gonna
this is
say-
the problem. We went from he ate the radiation factory to chapter 2. He's named Godzilla and dubbed
Oh.
it's dubbed atomic breath. Who dubbed it that? That
Let-
is an actual
me-
issue in Rooney's
me-
story so far here.
Let me hit you, because he hit a few things about like just Japanese like fundamental parts of their culture that it's just like, yeah, it's not quite right. Did they? What years does this take place? And also, was the atom bomb understood?
Sounds like the
I
80s.
think this is in the 80s.
It would.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's the 80s, and that would mean they would know atomic stuff. But I don't know if they're gonna be doing random radioactive tests in the middle of or off the coast of this place.
Yeah. Regardless, the name itself is weird.
Yeah, they wouldn't call it the atomic
Yeah.
breath. They'd call it maybe like laser or something. Also, I do want to say, without all fairness, you are right. 10 ships is a lot. It's not a full fleet. So fleets are kind of amorphous and nebulous. This is something this guy got a little bit wrong. When we say a fleet, we can assume it's got a standardized number, but really it just means like battle group. It means like this is a grouping of guys. You know, certain ships can be different fleet sizes. Also, the Japanese, I don't know how standard their naval fleet is.
I
Alright.
don't know if it would be extremely.
I'm not sure either. But let's see what this guy's got to say next.
Focus all firepower towards the heads. The east and west ships would close in on it and slowly force Gordra into a circle so the artillery could hit him from all sides. Harpoons laced with boron. I don't think I need to
Oh,
tell you how
yes, right.
insane this sounds.
I forgot
Harpoons
about
laced
the
with boron.
harpoons. I forgot about
See, it means
the
whales. So you gotta
harpoons.
harpoon it, man.
Look, the Japanese love harpooning whales, but I don't think like that's how it works. I'm not an expert, but
No.
I feel like you can't.
I mean,
lace
Why
something
would
with
they
you're-
make a
boron.
harpoon? Like
Yeah,
like
why
even
harpoon?
if you want to do that, like why would you do a harpoon and not just like make a shell out of boron if you really want to use boron?
Yeah, because like.
Also, are you
there's
trying to
are-
tell me that
Because-
the Japanese government see this giant fucking monster coming out of the water, and the first thing they do is just like, oh yes, we get like essentially a toothpick-sized weapon, and we're gonna stick it into him, and he won't be able to pull it out.
Look,
Why
he's
would you even
only
use a
300
harpoon?
meters, okay? He's not that big a deal.
If you have to use a ship's
Oh.
battery on it, why would you ever use a harpoon on it?
I got like two things here, and it's like one positive and one negative. Now I don't know what the effects of boron are, but I do know it
Hag
was like
here, he would know. Hag would know.
Ag would
No.
know.
it was like fairly common practice in like older European, like, before guns, before like big scale projectile weapons. You would tip your spears with venom, right? So a stabby thing with poison on it. Like, I get the point, but I don't know if the Japanese were hunting whales with poison at that point rather than just pulling the old Moby Dick and dragging along. And also,
If you're hunting them for food, wouldn't you want to not poison them? Otherwise, you might die.
Well, like you might, I could see a reason for wanting to like do all this for like something like a whale or something, or like something that's like, you're not too worried about. But like he's 300 meters, like we're a bit beyond harpoons.
if I may, I do have to give a shameful apology. Poisoning something does not apply to whales. I'm very sorry. That's the stupidest thing I've ever said. Poisoning a whale that you want to hunt for its meat and shit. Like, but yeah, what I mean is like poison something was used as like a projectile weapon with spears and other things like that for like arrows. There were definitely arrows tipped with venom and shit like that. But yeah, my bad. Bringing up the examples of whales was a bad choice, and I don't know what boron actually does to Godzilla or what the Japanese were using at that time. What year?
The only things that I could find, and I think Titan also did some looking into it, is that boron 11 could reduce the yields of thermonuclear weapons, possibly, but that research wasn't done until 2011, and also it's used as a rocket igniter, as what Titan said.
Apparently, it's like before gunpowder, it was used like for pyrotechnic stuff. I don't know.
Oh my goodness! Because
it's also pesticides.
No. If you said it's a thing to slow down nuclear, that's what he meant to use by it. Come on,
that's what I'm thinking
that has
too.
to be what he meant.
But like that wouldn't be a thing they should know.
Well, even if it's not a thing they should know. It's still a stupid idea to use. I'm sorry, Pops. I'll let you go.
This bothers me about Rooney's, like, what he prioritizes in his writing. Because his thought is, like, I'm going to have a 1,000-foot Godzilla, and, like, the people have to slow him down somehow, but they're going to fail, and they have to do this and that. And he's like, what would slow down a Godzilla as a thermonuclear holocaust or whatever? And he goes, boron. And he goes, oh, let me throw that in. And it's like, bro, no, you have to learn more about the actual people to make the story engaging. You can't just say, like, the people did this and the people did that. Like, come on. Oh, it kills me. And
like, even with that, like, there's no way with a 300-meter Godzilla they're using harpoons. That's not even in the equation.
Not at all.
Like, that's not happening. Like, especially since the destroyers, like, is a destroyer gonna have harpoons? Like, come on. Like, get out of here.
You have a gun to fire that harpoon?
Exactly. Having a gun to fire a harpoon rather than just having another, what's it called? Shoot, we talked
battery.
Said it.
Yeah, another
battery. Another battery? Like, get out of here. Like...
This is the 1980s. You know, whaling was about to become like illegal. Like,
yeah, exactly.
And also,
no, that's actually how they got the harpoons.
So what I would have done if I was Rooney, so let's just assume that they magically had boron harpoons laying around. If I was Rooney, I wouldn't have had 2 destroyers circle around him. I would have said they have 10 destroyers here, and they commandeered 2 whaling ships and had them shoot their boron, things. That would make more sense. It's still stupid, but that's building on this to make a bit more sense. So,
all
right,
that's the problem. I feel like he didn't even consider that, like, at all.
I do feel like now you mentioned the size being a problem. I'm starting to feel that size problem. I'm starting to think about it more with like the ships and like this scene. The size problem is pretty apparent at this point.
I'm telling you, this is the problem with having this thing be taller than God.
It's one of those things.
Like if you have like a USSR Navy or like a US Navy, that's one thing. But like with this dinky Japanese Navy that's got like what 30s tech for their ships, like
hang on a fucking second. Just think about this. What is the biggest harpoon?
Look, that's my point. Like that's what I was saying at the beginning. Like,
let's just say that somehow there's a 30-foot harpoon.
Is not doing anything.
Let's just assume that you could somehow find a 30-foot harpoon. To Godzilla, that's like nothing. That's less than 3% of his height.
His high, bro. You know how deep that motherfucker, like, his skin has got to be hard as shit.
No, that's what I love too, is that like there's all this stuff and then it's like, yeah, we're prepared to strike the abdomen where there's important organs. It's like your harpoon ain't reaching
hit the abdomen.
Thing,
like, this thing's like where planes fly in the sky almost.
Yeah. Not even like how tough it has to be, just size-wise. You're not gonna punch through like it's like probably a meter of like just skin at that point.
That's like I get like
I don't think a lightsaber would help you here.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit play.
Okay, so many.
Boron, bro. Fucking boron.
Boron. We got some stuff still here. Hang on.
We're prepared to strike the abdomen, where we assumed important organs could be there. If not, then we could at least cripple it. So at this time, which, all that was insane and bad, but this will probably make it even worse. But it's nighttime here, so it's 2001 hours, and so the cloud of smoke rise and engulf the land. The clouds glow deep red, like Godzilla Ultima. We hear loud booms and a powerful roar.
Yo, did he say 2,000 hours?
He said 2,100
He said 2,100 hours. I was about to pause on that myself, honestly. It's like,
dude,
please.
Look,
p.m.
Please.
They really want to hit a target at night, okay? They have night. What do you mean? What's the problem?
Dude, the announcer got it wrong, is what Pops is saying.
He said 2,000
The announcer guy said? Oh,
Shut up. He said 2,000 hours. I have nothing else to say. Play the video.
Exactly.
You could hear it loud and clear for 2 kilometers away. They wouldn't use kilometers. They would use nautical miles.
No, they wouldn't. They would use kilometers. This is a fucking dumb point. I want to smack you, sir. Just because they're on boat, they wouldn't use nautical miles.
Nautical miles would be speed, right? Not distance.
Also, they might say 2 clicks away, because that's what it is. A kilometer is a click. If you want to get real military technical, Mr. Guy. But yeah, 2 kilometers away. Also, the roar could render someone deaf. I know that's coming up in a second.
Oh my goodness, I forgot about that.
It is.
No, let him cook. Let him cook. Let him cook.
Because I just want to say something about the fucking nautical miles. It's like, yeah, this is something like Pag brought this up like at first glance, didn't he? He was like, why wouldn't they say that? How the
he did
fuck,
bring it up immediately.
Like I don't know what measurements they use in the Japanese Defense Force, you fucking dweeb. Like, I don't know. But yeah, dude, go ahead. This is gonna be funny as shit.
No, this is great.
Joseph got another win here. Let's let him explain it to us, because he's got the correct take on this one mostly.
It was unmistakably Gojira. We repaired our artillery and aimed. Gojira became visible and started walking towards the fleet. Okay, so remember how Godzilla's 300 meters? Well, they would just be really seeing his feet and legs, and also the fog, and also it's nighttime and nobody could see anything, so they would be...
Yo, hey, hang on. Before he gets his win, bro, he can suck a fat one.
I agree.
No, let me cook. So Godzilla's 300 meters, which approximates to just under... Now, later in the story, no spoiler, but pause it if you don't want a spoiler. He's confirmed 315 meters tall, because the Japanese, I guess, have really good vision. But, so that's over 1,000 feet tall.
Yep.
And so...
3 football fields.
Now, regardless of that, this is 2 kilometers out into the Japanese sea or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So how are we going to assume that all they can see as he approaches them is his knees and feet, when he's literally he's under like at least like his own height worth of water?
So they do say that there's a cloud of smoke engulfing the land, which does kind of seem like the lower parts of him would be surrounded by.
They'd only be seeing his head then.
That's what I'm thinking.
Actually, that is a good point. That is actually a good point. Yeah, you're right. They would only see his head. Yeah.
They are far enough. Now, I'm autistic enough that I looked this up because it bothered me. So I looked up I tried to find out, like, what's the site of the power plant, and I found out it's Janjira, which is a fictional city, which, unfortunately, it doesn't exist, but I assume it's on, like, the southeastern coast of Japan, which, the average depth of I think it's called the Japanese Sea, or some other type of sea. You fucking look it up for yourself, but it's about 5,500 feet. And 300 meters is about 1,000 feet. So I assume like 2 kilometers out, you're going to be probably, deep enough in the water that Godzilla isn't going to be immediately visible if he doesn't want to be, but also shallow enough that he could probably poke his head up and do his thing. Now, assuming that all you can see of this thing in a sea that's at average 5,500 feet deep, this thing that's 1,000 feet tall, is somehow you're only going to be able to see like his knees and toes, is a little absurd. So I went off on a bit of an autistic rant at that mention within this critique, but still, this scene we got to go on because there's a lot of things I'm going to want to address.
Like the worst scene in the story for Rooney.
Right.
Yes.
Also, they
We gonna keep trucking then?
Yep, hit play.
He's just seeing like really big footsteps and hearing it. They would have to rely on hearing, right? But it doesn't help because Godzilla's like, really big. And so we've ordered earplugs assigned to us because his roar could render someone deaf. This is the guy obsessed with logic. Like he really genuinely wants people to be like, holy crap, this guy's too smart.
What the fuck
Dude,
are you talking about, Joseph?
Yeah, this
I want to
is.
slap you in your mouth. Give you
Now this
bet you. Earplugs are standard issue for firing a gun because that can render you deaf. Let alone Godzilla. It's totally reasonable for his roar to deafen you. There are other reasons it shouldn't because he roared at the other place with the beginning of the story. Nobody got deafened there. That's a problem. But for them to issue them earplugs, that's totally fine. That's not a problem at all. Why would you even point this out?
I mean, wouldn't they
You were
already have
deaf at a rock
earplugs because they're
concert.
firing batteries?
Right. Dude, that's not even my issue with it. My issue is the way that he approaches it doesn't even acknowledge that like it's standard practice to have earplugs at the range and shit. My problem with it is that like he hears someone go, "Oh, we wore earplugs," and he goes, "Oh, well, he's being overly logical and therefore it's bad." And it's like, no, dude. He literally, you're taking away from credit from someone for literally trying to be logical in like the easiest way as well for anyone who knows jack shit about any sort of firearms. But it comes across just so ridiculous.
Let this guy go.
He knows that they're wearing earplugs. Oh my god. Why hasn't nobody thought of this before?
They literally have. It's just that
They have. That's why he's doing it.
That's to be expected. Like that's the most regular thing of like saying like, I walked off into the desert, my tongue swollen with thirst. It's like, yeah, of course it is. Like it's the same shit. Like, motherfucker, you're just setting the scene. That's all it is. You're setting the fucking scene. What's the problem? It's like the most sensible thing that he's put in this fucking story anyway in this scene.
All right, let's keep going.
So we fired. We saw the back of its spines glowing blue. We knew its atomic breath was charging, so we began evasive maneuvers while the east and west ships loaded the harpoons. Like, why didn't they load this earlier? Like, this is the big issue. Like, if you are creating this logical story because you keep pushing consistently in your stories, then all these weapons should be loaded. The creature's mouth began to open.
All right. So, dumbass, you don't load guns before you see the enemy because unloading them is a bit of a problem. Harpoons also tend to be fired using like CO2 cartridges and stuff, not explosives, which makes it much harder to unload it. Once you've pierced a CO2 canister, you can't unload it essentially. You got to dry fire it. So that's a problem. Also, stop harping so much on the logical thing. You're coming across as a vindictive, petty little prick. Stop it. It's really looking bad for you. Any good critiques you have are like completely void because you're just like going like, he wants it. Shut up. Just go and tell me what's wrong.
What a concept!
Yeah. Hang on, because the whole deal about it, that like literally you just put him on his ass for, honestly, with that one little detail you just gave is like, oh, because his whole thing is like, oh, he wants to be illogical. Well, we'll try to break him down by logic, and then by his own logic, you just dismantled him. That was great.
It's just, if you're gonna be like this, and you want to be so petty and like show like, oh man, I know more than you, then know more than him. put him in his place,
Yeah,
smack him
literally,
down, and
yes.
prove how stupid he is. We've shown multiple times it's not that hard with this story. He's got plenty of problems and flaws in here. But you're so focused on just winning that you're starting to do things that are self-sabotaging. It's so frustrating. That's why this video pisses me off so much. I'm hitting play.
And harpoons were fired piercing the skin. Godzilla's 300 meters. They would just be stabbing his legs, basically, with this. The atomic breath would fire through a streak of pain. It reminded me of acid reflux, so perhaps this was something similar. That has nothing to do with this. Please cut that out. It began belling short roars of pain as it scratched its throat. It looked at the east ship and listed a massive tail and hit the boat. It was split in two and sank. This is like going to cause a tsunami. This is a 300-meter Godzilla. But no, he just has the power to slice ships in half, everyone. Not even a tsunami like that. Not even flatten into the water. Turn to the west side.
So you don't know if it causes a tsunami. He didn't say that. A. B. Tsunamis are much more difficult to cause. Why don't you go hop in the water and just splash a little bit? That's not a tsunami. You're not gonna. I bet you can't, with all your force in your little kiddie pool, break over the waterways that easily. You're not going to cause flooding and destruction. Tsunamis are incredible charges of energy that are released from earthquakes and volcanoes. Also, your real. We're just going to ignore from now on that he's wrong about the height, or else we're going to be here all day. And hey, dumbass, you want to know why he doesn't remind you of acid reflux and he starts scratching at his throat? Let's go back to the very top of this thing. We knew its atomic breath was charging. Where does that come from? His throat. He's about to vomit up, like atomic power. So that's why he used the acid reflux. I agree. Rooney could have described it much better. I think that's a terrible description of what's going on here. What he said is it gagged, seemingly forced to swallow its atomic breath. It sounded like what happens when one gets acid reflux, as it then begins to whirl at us in anger. That's how you describe that scene much better. Because that's what he's trying to say here. Is they shot it in his mouth, and it, basically made him stop going on. That's what's going on. All right, let's let it go.
Ship and fires atomic breath and sweep counterclockwise, melting the ships immediately. Yeah, because they're all like really close together and they couldn't avoid it. I ordered my crew to go to starboard and jump from the boat before the flames could reach us. And they have boats on the ships, right? Because it's a destroyer.
I swear
they always have boats on ships. You idiot! They're always.
Do
ready
you
for
know?
Oh my
Do you
goodness,
know what the
we're
fuck happened in Titanic?
Pops so bad, so sad. Pops,
I
he'll
like-
be okay. It's one more line.
No, hang on. Let's let Pops go. I know it's coming up.
Can't afford the what?
I didn't use it. And
I
then
have
we had
very little
the
else to
water
say.
was very hot, like in a hot tub.
No.
All right. So this is the line that filtered Pops earlier when he told me this video is wild. That Rooney needs to know. Rooney, hot tubs aren't that hot. Also, a friend of ours, Carolus, made a great point. That's not the word you should use there. You should say like maybe a boiling pot or something that's like damaging. Hot tubs are considered pleasant.
No,
Just
not what it's about.
It's like the water was searing or something. I don't know.
yeah, the water was
issue
very
that-
hot.
Anything.
Like right before you throw your pasta in. That's evocative. That's Italians. We'd say this.
The
Any
issue
more you want
that
to bring
I
up with the
have
hot
it-
tub, Pops? I know you really got annoyed by this.
Yes. Am I legible? Can you hear
Yes.
me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. So my
Go
issue
off.
with that. So my generic issue and the overall whole thing with it, to put it as simply as I can, is that like this fucking line is like if you said like I need a simile and you said let me pick the worst simile, the most shitty comparison, and the worst possible phrasing that I possibly can, and you said let me call that fucking art. And oh my god, like in a hot tub, like it breaks my heart. Like this is the one line where I was like, I this is irredeemable. It's terrible. I could think of half a dozen fucking examples of better things to put than the water is very hot, like in a hot tub. In half a fucking minute, I swear to God. Like all you have to do. Carolus's point was that yes, the context of being in a hot tub is like it's comforting, it's relaxing. You don't worry about shit when you're just lounging in the hot tub. versus, this massive monster is about to kill you, and you're not in a hot tub. You're not in a contained little bathroom. You're in the open ocean. By the way, the reason the Atlantic Ocean is called the pond is because the Pacific Ocean is big as shit. So, you're out there. And there's so many different wordings you could have used. It breaks my heart. Like, I would have said the water was hot as a sauna. You couldn't have even had to make it sound like a simile or a metaphor, whatever. You could have said just the water was a sauna. Like anything. Hot as shit. Like,
I do have to interrupt
use
you
the
though,
word hot,
Pops.
Uh,
Sorry, Pops. I have to
you go
interrupt
ahead.
you. Legacy says the stream is going to cut the circulation in my brain like Destructo's tiny historical helmet. I think Legacy figured it out, boys. This is why Dez can't type for shit, because he's got a tiny helmet that cuts all circulation in his brain.
On every word. My man mixed up every word possible.
If there's a typo in a sentence, Dez got it. All right,
Hell yeah.
let's keep going, boys.
There are so many typos of what you just said, kid. Come on now.
Yes.
Yeah, let's keep going.
Oh my god, bro. It's not that hard
Oh
to
my
easily
God.
do characterization by simply going, the water felt like a hot spring. This would
That's
immediately...
a terrible fix, you idiot.
No, that doesn't fix the
What's
problem.
worse?
That's it.
You guys say it's boiling, and it felt like it was baking me or some shit.
The only thing it improves is make it Japanese theme, but yes, it's still very bad.
No,
and
but you
misses
see,
the entire
Destructo
content.
he criticized Rooney earlier for saying Oni because it was Japanese theme. So we can't have a Japanese theme in this
Oh my
Japanese
goodness,
story.
wait! No, you're right. I didn't think about that. What? I'm actually mad now. That's actually so stupid. You're right. He was criticizing the Japanese theming, but now
That's
All
the
right.
I
same
didn't
shit.
think about that.
A hot
gotta keep
Oh
going,
my
though.
goodness, I hate that.
We
I
are
actually hate that.
approaching 2 hours, and we've gotten 13 minutes in.
No, you could have said like the water
No,
was
look,
scalding.
guys, we're gonna finish the video. I don't know what you mean.
Terrible.
We'll be done by.
The water was
Yeah.
a tub of hot shit. I don't know.
Like we were fondue, and it was like this nice little. It was therapeutic for my spirit.
Like, when we felt the water, we were shocked at its heat. Like, there's so many different ways you could have phrased it, which is like, within the context of what the heat in the ocean means while a radioactive monster attacks you. You should make it a lot more kind of intimidating. That's all I mean. Like, you could have been like the water was hot as a literally anything, and then boom, you made a better sentence. Like a guy's or a...
I made a poll. I'd like you all to go and vote. Should we stop the stream because we're getting to that point? Your options are yes, no, and yes, and resume it in 2 weeks.
Shit.
I
So
think
go
we're
ahead
gonna
and
get
vote.
yes resume in 2 weeks because you have made more money on this stream than I like any stream this person posted. You made gangbusters on this stream.
I am going to let the
Apparently,
people decide.
Bro, the gang busted.
While they decide, I'm going to give you guys about 2-3 minutes to vote. Go ahead and just pile your votes in. Every answer is good. We're going to play this a little bit more. We're trying to get to a little bit over 13 minutes before we consider ending it.
Draw the attention to the character here who's talking has been in hot springs and enjoys hot springs. But no, the water is very hot, like in a hot tub. This is like baby stuff, man. We swam away from the boat and away from Gojo as fast as we could. I rose my head from the water and saw and heard it, felt it roaring in pain as it was scratching his eye. I saw it bleeding. My assumption was that one of his ships aimed for the eye and managed to get a hit. Remember, 300 meters, fog, nighttime, and he has basically black skin as far as we are concerned, considering this is the traditional approach to Godzilla. So no, they can't really see him besides like big lights that he does. Like,
I don't think this criticism is valid. We already went over it. We're not going to talk about the height much anymore. I'm simply pausing because I just don't want to play him without pausing for a little bit. It's not fair to his video.
From his spines.
Hang on, one more thing. If he has black skin, the ships still have their own lights and shit. Like they can see him, right? Like it literally says he became visible in the
Yes.
story.
Also,
Like,
something to remember: black is not a good disguise for nighttime. Blue is, because the night sky is actually blue, not black. They're out in the middle of the friggin' ocean. The reason black works so well is because in cities, because we have natural ambient light, it filters out like all the stars and the moon. Whereas in the middle of the ocean, it's going to be blue because the ocean's blue and the stars and the moon are going to make it a blue hued. So him being black would not be necessarily good for disguising.
Oh, and then he does a -1 reference because Blackarooni loves -1. So yeah.
Why is that a bad thing? It's at best a side thing to make a -1 reference. So we're just gonna keep going, but that's not a bad thing or a good thing.
We looked at a ship and saw the hull was melting off and it hasn't finished sinking. The boat and the water around it was steaming. Okay, look, man, we don't care, bro. We could get the lifeboats.
hey, yo.
Why don't we care? That's a good thing.
That's
The whole idea is how
What do you-
hot it was. Is the entire reason he brought up as you said, he should have a hot springs because Ching Chin Hoangji over apparently. Like, come on, man. Don't fucking tell me that it doesn't matter and then bring up why it exactly matters and then say that also doesn't matter. Like,
Who is we?
we as the readers. It's the royal we, and I'm the king, so we're gonna hit play again.
We tried to swim to the boat. Couldn't get the lifeboats. Did they not just decide to get in them earlier? Like, what is happening?
So he's slightly
they
correct
dove
here.
in.
Well, he is correct. They did say we need to get to the boats. Then they said we're going to go in the water, and then they said they can't get back to the lifeboats. I agree that the sequence needs to be tightened up a little bit by Rooney because it's very clear, like jumping a little bit too much around. This is an editing thing where you could make it flow better. But let's continue.
This is insane. Like, huh?
It's not insane,
No
it's average
lifeboats,
writer
no
problems.
running away or anything on a lifeboat, just swimming. And then, a carefully peek into Gojira and there was, standing there breathing heavily. It stared right at me, smiling. This is so corny. The suit stuff, bro, where Godzilla smiles at the screen, and everyone pees their pants. This is so text heavy already, by the way. We're only at page 14, and this is very text heavy.
Man, I agree, but you've dealt with a suicide note and a military report. Of course they're going to be text heavy. I'm sorry. Nobody's talking yet. I agree that is not ideal for a story, but you need to make your criticism much more understandable if that's what you're going to complain about. Come on. And the whole it smiled at him, I personally hate that. That's not a man in the suit type problem. The reason that's a bad thing is the smile implies malice. It implies something that I don't think you want to imply, or even Rooney wants to imply with Godzilla. He wants Godzilla to be a natural disaster. The smile implies hatred. What's up?
Kid. Spoilers, a little bit of spoilers. He does imply malice. He does imply hatred.
Okay, so then in that case, it's actually a good thing. It goes from being, if he does fix it later on, it goes from a bad thing to a good thing. And you know what? I want to give you all an example from a show that none of you are going to watch. So, spoilers for Dead Boy Society. I think that's what it's called. Dead Boy Detectives. It is a very gay show. It's on Netflix, and it's written by DC.
Oh, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
Oh, you do know
I
it.
remember this.
So
I remember
because you
talking
talked
about it.
and I remember it on seeing something about it on Netflix.
yes,
No, you didn't. You're gay.
I think it's worth watching. I wouldn't say it's like a high piece of art, but there's a single thing that happens in this show that really stood out to me. Without getting into as much spoilers as possible, there is a character who gets sacrificed to Satan. And this character is just trust me, just go with it for a second. While they're sacrificing this character, the people doing it don't think Satan's real, so they think it's just a funny prank. And then it turns out that the ritual they did was slightly wrong, where they sacrificed themselves and their victim to Satan. But because when Satan shows up, he's like, hey man, technically speaking, this is for willing sacrifices, and since you're unwilling, you're not really supposed to be taken to hell. I'm sorry. The whole time the kid's crying, please don't kill him, please don't kill me. And it's played off as a comedy beat, and Satan's like, yeah, I shouldn't take you, but it's 5 o'clock. I'm clocking out in an hour. I'm just going to take you to hell, man. I don't want to do this paperwork. So it's played off as a haha, it's a funny joke.
No, dude.
Which is terrible because this guy is... Huh?
Have you ever, like, butt dialed 911? Like,
exactly. They have to come and shoot your dog. But
that's like, you imagine telling Satan, like, yo, my bad.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. So Satan's kind of like, hey, man, I have to kill you because, it's just my job. I'm sorry, you'll figure it out later.
My contract, bro.
Exactly. So, like, it's played off as a joke. He sounds like a fucking nerd in an office space, the devil who shows up. It's very supposed to be funny. And I watched that, and I'm like, this sucks. This pisses me off because this is Marvel humor at its finest. This is coming back out of nowhere just to make a joke out of what should be an emotionally poignant scene. This character has had PTSD the entire show. He has had 2 mental breakdowns about this before we see him. So at first, like, this is awful. This is almost ruined the show. Now we get to episode, I think, 6 out of 8. And, okay, because they're ghosts, other people who want to bring ghosts to heaven or hell show up. And they're like, all right, buddy, we're basically heaven's bureaucrats. We're here to take you to hell where you belong. And he's like, well, I don't belong hell. It's a clerical error. And they're like, no, it's not a clerical error. He says, yeah, it was. And they go to get his document, and then they show it. Like, oh, this is a clerical error. So now the show goes from, hey, we need to take you to hell because it's where you belong to. Well, this is clearly a clerical error. So Satan, earlier when he made the joke that it was probably a clerical error, that went from a shitty joke into being, oh no, this is setting up something. And it's like, aha, now it's good writing. And that's what just happened here with this thing. It went from bad writing to good writing. Because you look at it, it's like, wow, you took what should have been a soulless, like, Reddit humor joke and stuff like that. You're like, oh my god, this is terrible. But now it's a good thing. And that's what's going on here. When you have something like Godzilla's grinning being stupid, but if it's later contextualized and he's, like, actually a demonic and, like, hateful being, then it becomes a good thing because instead of being a goofy here, it turns into something like, oh, this is valuable. This is the story. This is how you set something up. Dare I say, you would subvert my expectations. It was very nice. Sorry, I just wanted to praise that one bit of that show. It's the best part of that show.
There you go.
I just want to point something out. Genodrome is saying regular homosexual hours. First of all, we haven't covered Has-Been Hotel yet. Okay? Don't say that yet.
No.
Okay?
Yet.
Hey, yeah, I know. Look, kid has plans. Okay? Kid.
Look, I'll literally fuck him right now.
All right.
You want to talk about gay hours?
Yeah, don't worry. We'll cover Has-Been Hotel one of these days. I do want to talk about it, but like,
see, he's promising. He's promising. I knew he was gonna do it. I'm
not yet. Though. We're gonna wait for season 2. I gotta wait for season 2.
Yeah, we're not
4
doing it yet.
Yeah.
1 stream.
Yeah. All right. So let's go a little bit longer. I do have Baldur's Gate 3 soon with Mr. GG. So we're just gonna continue this a tiny bit longer before we call it. Actually, it looks like the stream died on my end. Oh, no, it's back. Okay, we're good.
I was gonna say I see 6 watching. So.
All right, so you know what? We're gonna go to 15 minutes. So let's give this guy another 35 seconds, and then we're gonna pause it here, and I'm gonna end the poll, and we'll see where we are. So far, resuming it in 2 weeks is barely winning.
Heavy, not even like anything like a compelling like text heavy.
Yeah, you better want to see that. Rooney gets out what? How long?
Like, oh,
we'll keep you going.
I have no idea, but don't worry, we're gonna make sure to cover this in full.
Oh wow, it was staring at me, smiling. Oh my god, he could smile and he's evil. Like, make it make sense, dude. This is not good. Like, I tried not to go into some preconceived notions, but it's not very.
That's
no, you didn't.
That's so fucking bullshit.
Yeah, so ready to fight this guy. Rooney could have written the next Bible, and you would have been like, man, this don't make sense. I hate this. Satan's evil. Shake my head. Come on, man. Come on. You didn't come into this.
Well, also, he's already proven so far that he's been coming at this from bad faith a decent bit. Like, so when you go and say, man, well, it's also, I think at the beginning, it was just sort of like this sort of vibe of, man, I didn't want to have to make this video. I'm really hoping that Blackarooni will stop making some videos soon, man. I hope that he stops writing.
Well, no,
I hope he stops writing.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's actually going farther than that. It's not like, man, I didn't want to cover this. It's like, man, you suck. I hope you never make another thing again. Please stop. It's painful.
You should kill yourself now.
Welcome back, Maz. Why don't you vote in the poll then and see if we're going to stop it or resume it in 2 weeks? So, all right. It is insanely bad faith. Oh, gosh.
Very good to read. Like the whole nautical stuff being made wrong, the naval ship stuff being incorrect. Like, and he's supposed to be obsessed with this whole logic stuff, as I keep saying. And then, Godzilla's smiling at him, and he's 300 meters, and the scale is off, right? Like, oh yeah, like Godzilla Earth could see people, but he barely moves. So, like, what? Godzilla, like, looks down from the fog and he grins or something? Like, okay.
Now, I agree with this guy here. That is a valid point. Everything around it is stupid, and he's, again, being petty. But he is right that Godzilla being 300 meters tall, this causes another problem. Because he's too tall to smile at the human. Just to put it in perspective, if he is 300 meters tall, that means that a human is less than 1/3%. How tall he would be is literally an ant to humanity. Like, if you look down at an ant, would you grin at an ant? No, it's that small. He was 50 meters tall, 100 meters tall. Maybe you could see it, but it's just, he's way too big, man. Way too big, Rooney.
Well, if I was the size of an ant, could I not recognize a green if I knew what it was?
You could, but why would he be able to see you? You're that small. You're an ant in an ocean.
I can look at an ant. I don't know. But yeah, the scale is ridiculous.
Pops, you're outside all day. When you look down, how often do you see ants?
Oh boy.
Also, these ants somehow are powerful enough to hit you in the stomach, and you almost like vomited. I don't know. That's a bit weird juxtaposition.
Yeah, what was
Whatever,
weird
man.
about it to me specifically was how they say, like, he seems to be like attacking him based on the idea that personifying him as like smiling is a little ridiculous, but then I think like he does personify Godzilla kind of later on, so I'm not sure what my opinion is on this one, because I feel like the anthropomorphization, is that the right word?
Mhm.
That, like, it's like okay to see a giant monster that looks like it's smiling at you, and you're like, oh my god, he's so menacing, and I have this existential dread at this, like, visage. But I don't know if he tries to characterize Godzilla as having intent to destroy people. So I don't know if that's like intentional that he actually smiles, or if it just looks like he's smiling. Because if it just looked like it, like,
Guys in chat here said later on it's revealed that this is like part of Godzilla's dread. So again, if that's what's going on, we'll get to that. All right, so chat has
I will
spoken.
say that.
They do want us to resume this in 2 weeks.
We're still going.
Thank you all so much. This has been an astounding stream. I've had a lot of fun covering this. I didn't think I would get this passionate. So we're at 15 minutes and 15 seconds. Next week is book club. Please swing by for that. I will definitely be covering this later on because, like I said, we got way less into this than I thought we would. There was just so many problems with just the way that Joseph breaks it down, and Rooney's writing itself.
We wanted to go on.
I know you don't want to go on.
Like,
no.
Like, you know how in the old cartoons, how they have those little gags of just like they have a whole bunch of rakes around the yard, and we're just like, let's keep on going, and then we instantly stamped on one, get slapped in the face, and we're like,
yeah, but they keep happening.
all right.
I mean,
I guess
that
you have to
definitely
address this now.
That definitely happened because I was like, oh, and here's the part that Pops has been waiting for. And then I think it took like 20 minutes for us to actually
Minutes to get there in the video.
I was like, oh, we're almost here. I recognize this part. And then we just kept on talking about some random thing before it. I'm like, no.
This part is like, there's just so many small problems here that, like, man. And yes, chat, before you ask, I will be reusing the same thumbnail, just upping the number. Maybe, because I'm very proud of it. Maybe I'll use a different Blackarooni picture. Yeah, go to the Discord and submit different Rooney pictures, or different Blade pictures, I suppose, for Joseph as well. We'll be fair to both of them. And Joseph, if you're watching and you want to talk about this on a live stream, you're more than welcome to let me know. You can't come on next week, but in 2 weeks you can come on if you wanted to talk about this. I will have you on. I'm not going to be like overly polite, just so you know. If you want to keep it cordial, we can. but you very much went into this with vitriol. You shouldn't have done that because we immediately are going to come back with the vitriol. Go into this nice and we'll be much, much better next time. All right? So.
I'll be polite, Joe.
Yeah, we'll be polite.
Pops, please don't lie to him. He's gonna believe that.
But no.
He's gonna come in and he's just gonna kill him.
If he wants to keep it cordial and he doesn't want to throw shade, then I will gladly keep it cordial. But like I said, he spent so much time attacking Rooney that he missed several free wins that would have just been easy dubs for this situation. It's very frustrating to watch. Because all this section here, this is the strongest part of the video. Yeah, this is why, I wanted to cover this, because I know right here is where Joseph had some really good points, and he starts pointing out a lot of the problems that Rooney actually has in the writing here. And I'm upset because we got a lot of times. Make sure you add the guy in the title and description of the stream so he sees it. No, I don't need to add him. That's how you start petty drama. He knows what's going on with this stream. The Godzilla community is so autistic that they will know. I'm pretty sure he's also in Rooney's server, which I tagged everybody in. I hate that Rooney dropped and shipped out. Yeah, I know. Yeah, we're not going to be able to talk to him for a while. So those of you all, but thank you for joining us, though. Like I said, we're going to have to cut the stream here. Don't go anywhere, though. If you go into my server, you'll be able to see that I'm posting links, or we'll be posting links very soon, to a Twitch channel. I'm doing a Baldur's Gate 3 stream with my friend Nebula. So thank you all.